This is a world where legends are born, and 7 Stars leads the way in combat power. He defended the city and single-handedly killed 108 invaders, earning him a Hall of Fame induction. The final boss of the Demon Lord's world fell to him in 30 minutes. The guild's record of 50 minutes was surpassed by a single person. In the Heaven's Battle dungeon, he killed the Law of Heaven in 30 minutes. 7 Stars set a new record that was unmatched by others. No player or guild could surpass it. The world is full of hopeless situations, but the legend of the 7 Stars shone. The seller's voice grew louder. Sessin pushed his way forward, heading for the counter. He picked up 6 boxes of the new game. A poster shone on the high-rise, Ancient Gods, official release. A crowd walked around the entrance, eager to buy their chance. Sessin walked with boxes in his hands, his heart beating faster. 1,000 yuan profit from each one could pay for his studies. But more important were the bills for my sister's treatment. The hospital room and his sister's quiet breathing came back to him. Sessin vowed to forget the games for the sake of waking her up. Sessin was walking through the park. A man was sitting on a bench with a phone. He transferred the money, but the amount was less than expected, 40,000 yuan. His 2 friends changed their minds, and he took the boxes. Sessin reminded that he had to buy 6 pieces and pay an additional 6,000. The man demanded proof and shouted about fraud. The crowd heard the shouts and was surprised, calling Sessin a drug dealer. Sessin explained the misunderstanding, opened the box and put the helmet on himself, explaining that he was not a fraud. The guy left, and the evening found Sessin on the bed. He thought about the first-day gifts. Tomorrow they are unavailable. The official version of the game will cost only 5,000. Even selling the remaining 2 at a discount resulted in a loss of 10,000 yuan. The phone rang and the voice on the other end laughed. The dealer had been punished. Manhua offered to sell the remaining 2 pieces and agreed to sell 1. The game currency could be converted into real money, so you can keep one for yourself. After all, he is the god of the 7 Stars. The conversation ended, leaving unresolved issues. Sessin recalled his sister scolding him for his endless gaming. She pulled him away from the computer, worrying about his eyesight. Sessin nodded, continuing to look at the monitor. A voice from the kitchen reminded him of lunch, but suddenly a scream was heard. The sister slipped and hit her head on the corner. Sessin froze, deciding that he could earn money to save her. He put on the VR headset, intending to play for more than just himself. He pressed enter, and the world of the ancient gods opened up before him. The game identified his region as China, and the loading screen began. Sessin wondered why the screen was blank. Before creating a character, the game rolled a 100-sided die. The reward depended on the number: 0, nothing, tens, doubling, 99. A special reward. Only 10 players could receive the special reward. Sessin thought that it would probably come up 0. Experienced players have no luck. The ball was turning over. The number was 87, but better than 0. Suddenly a message appeared. 99 came up, and he was the only lucky one on the server. Sessin was surprised. Incredible luck. It was like a dream. A girl appeared in front of him. Idol's personal assistant, Sei Xiaoman. The assistant was selected after scanning Sessin's brainwaves. There is no need to change your appearance, but you can take off your swimsuit, he noted. The girl reminded him to follow the rules of the user agreement. Sessin apologized and bowed. The next reward depended on the choice of 9 spheres of light. Sessin touched one of the spheres and received 2 places for the main role and 3 for the supporting one. In the newbie village, he could find NPCs that would help him change his class and learn skills. Reward messages have appeared. Sessin has received 5 additional attribute points. Each new level will give 5 points. He got 3 extra pets. The base number of pets was 2. Now there are 5. Pets will help him in battle. Special pet, the bloodthirsty Black Darkon. A message appeared. Sessin received the sword. Artifacts of growth. The sword can be named as desired. Its characteristics grow with the level. Another message. Unique skill, weapon master. Zyson became a master of any weapon, ignoring the class requirements. A message appeared. Zyson has received a special class scroll. When you log into the game, a class task will be generated. Another message. Quest, the path to becoming a god. After creating a character and logging into the game, the quest can be accepted. Zyson received a unique race, Guardian Zhen Mu, the heir of Xuan Lin. Sesson was surprised, thinking that this was some kind of scam or imbalance. Idol reminded him to create a character and choose a race. Sesson asked about the race. Idol recommended Guardian Zhen Mu, the heir of Xuan Lin. Sesson's appearance has changed, a race of the demigod level with the blood of the gods. The initial value of the race is 42 points. Other races have less. Sesson decided to choose a unique race, ignoring the others. With each level, he will receive 5 additional points. One of his levels is equal to 1.5 levels of a normal player. Sesson realized that with such a race and characteristics, he would become invincible. Those who have received a unique reward must lead people in the footsteps of the gods. Creating a second account prohibits choosing a human race or any race above the human level. Sesson wondered why he needed a second account if he already had this one. The idol took him to the newbie village to finish setting up his attributes and choosing a class. Suddenly the doorbell rang. Mom returned from work. Sesson exited the game, saved the settings, and a confirmation message appeared. Sesson took off his helmet, went to the door, and opened it. The guy behind the door was cursing at the slowness and asking for an extra helmet. He overslept in the morning and couldn't buy his helmet. Sesson wondered how Zhang Lingyao knew about the helmet. Did Tanghua leak the news to the classmates group? Sesson apologized. The helmet was already reserved. The guy said that it was a pity, but suddenly he came to the breach in the room and saw the helmet in Sesson's room. Zhang Lingyao said he found something interesting while holding the helmet in his hands. Sesson was confused and realized that the situation had become complicated and that he was finished. Tanhua said on the phone that Sesson was taking a bath. He assured them that they would soon have something to eat, and that this was not the first time Sesson had spent the night at his place. The conversation was reminiscent of their strong bond as father and son. Sesson intervened when he heard Tanhua talking nonsense to his mother. He emerged from the bath, beaten, and told his mother that he would be back in a couple of days. Sesson threw the phone on the sofa. Tanhua asked what happened, and Sesson thought about it. Earlier, Lingyao came to his house and demanded a helmet. Sesson refused, saying that he needed the helmet. Lingyao said he would only borrow the helmet for a week. Sesson shouted, demanding that he return the helmet. Lingyao threw the helmet straight at him. Sesson threatened to call the police if he didn't leave. Lingyao just smiled and punched him straight in the chest. Sesson got angry, punched his classmate in the face, and screamed. He was very angry, but his classmate did not lose his composure. He reminded Sesson of his sister, who was in hospital. Sesson was surprised and realized the threat. A classmate said that Sesson's parents were barely making ends meet. He threatened to kill his sister and parents if Sesson called the police. There were rumors in school that Zhang Lingyao was a man who was best left alone. Even the teachers and the principal were crawling under his feet, thought Sesson. Sesson's hand dropped, and he said that the helmet could be taken away. Lingyao responded that Sesson had angered him and punched him in the face. Sesson fell to the floor, shocked and stunned. It was evening. The sky was covered with a pink sunset. Lingyao left with the helmet, leaving Che Xiang lying on the floor. Che Xiang lay beaten, then opened his eyes. Now. He told Tanhua that nothing terrible had happened and that they could forget about it. Tanhua disagreed and said that it was nonsense. He noted that he had come running to his house without warning, so nothing had happened. Tanhua said that if Che Xiang didn't want to tell, it meant he didn't consider him a bro. Che Xiang admitted that it was all because of Zhang Lingyao. Tanhua asked what exactly he had done to run into this bastard. Che Xiang responded with a counter-question. What do you think? Che Xiang hugged Tanhua, trying to explain the situation of the helmet resale. He recalled that someone accidentally sent a message to the chat room where Zhang Lingyao was. Cai Xiang was surprised that this had led to such a serious problem. Tang Hua asked if this meant that it was all because of him. Cixin said that he was beaten, and the helmet with the super lucky account was stolen. He emphasized that this helmet is worth a lot of money and is rare. Cai Xiang admitted that he was at fault for not hiding the helmet before opening the door. He promised to find a way to get the helmet back. Cai Xiang asked Tang Hua if he knew anything about Zhang Lingyao. Tang Hua replied that it was best to calm down. The helmet was just a game item. Tang Hua explained that even his father, who made millions, would not dare to open his mouth in front of Zhang Lingyao. Cai Xiang asked about the bad breath. Tang Hua was surprised and said that it was not a joke. He wanted to emphasize the danger of Zhang Lingyao. Cai Xiang thought he couldn't just leave it like this. He thought this might be his only chance to act. Cai Xiang dialed the ancient god's support number. The voice on the phone greeted him and asked how he could help. Cai Xiang explained the situation. His helmet with the account was stolen. The support service explained that the helmet is tied to the iris of the main player. But the company lifted that restriction on 10,000 helmets in the first batch for an experiment. This allowed you to connect to your account through any other device, for convenience. Cai Xiang thought that there was nothing to be proud of here. His account was stolen. The support service apologized, but the account cannot be returned directly. It is tied to the helmet. The technology was intended for convenience, but unexpected problems arose. They offered to issue a certificate of account and help contact the police. Cai Xiang turned off the phone. Tan Hoa offered to buy the helmet from Lin Yao and was willing to pay. Cai Xiang said that it was okay. He was the god of the 7 stars and didn't need a cool account. He put on his helmet and lay down on the bed. Tan Hoa noticed that Cai Xiang was getting immersed in the game and decided to help. He called customer service to inquire about the helmet. Cai Xiang was in the game. Idol appeared in front of him. She was surprised to see him again and said that the reward was tied to another IP. She turned into a small ball, explaining the impossibility of changing her appearance. Cai Xiang complained that his helmet had been stolen and thought he was unlucky. The guide explained that the account and helmet were linked and it was impossible to use the previous account. Cai Xiang said he wanted to create a new character. He asked about race because super successful accounts can't create people, but there are thousands of other races. The guide confirmed that there are thousands of races: birds, cats, fish, snakes, and other animals. Cai Xiang thought that such races must be stronger than humans. The guide removed all races with a value of less than 20 points. The value of the human race is 30 points. He said that the number of suitable races for Cai Xiang is 0. Cai Xiang asked about races with a value of 15 points. The guide confirmed that there were no suitable ones. Cai Xiang remembered that even low-value races with special skills could be useful. For example, turtles were good at defense. The guide said that there were no races with special skills left. Cai Xiang was surprised and asked if things were really that bad. Cai Xiang asked if it could be that the race had no characteristics at all. The conductor replied that of course not, thought for a moment and suddenly lit up. Cai Xiang was surprised. The race with the feature fits the conditions. The guide announced that this was the first time a suitable combination was found. Cai Xiang, seeing an octopus, decided to create a character with this race. He was confirmed to create a character, and he agreed. Cai Xiang was not upset that he got a jellyfish. The main thing is that it is a sea creature. The jellyfish entered the character's body. In the early stages of the game, everyone will develop on land, and he will be able to take the first step towards conquering the ocean. Until anyone can compete for resources, Cai Xiang will develop faster than others. The character has been successfully created, and the game has been logged in. Cai Xiang opened his eyes and was horrified. The jellyfish was in the clutches of a seagull, and the seagull was flying over the ocean. Cai Xiang screamed, not understanding where his ocean was. Cai Xiang thought that after a series of misfortunes, he was in heaven. He did not know what to do while he was in the clutches of the seagull. His health was decreasing. A status window appeared. Value 10, Jellyfish, Depth 1, Level 01, Skill Unknown. Health, Stamina, and Intelligence were also displayed. Caixiang was surprised by the low stats and the strangeness of the avatar. The guide appeared in the air and explained what to do next. The first step? Give the character a name. Caixiang asked if this was correct. The guide confirmed. He called himself 7 Stars. Caixiang was surprised and asked about the second step. The guide said there was none. He asked about the starting class, points, characteristics, and guide. The guide explained that this is only on the old account. There is nothing on the new one. He also said that Caixiang is too far from the starting village to get the guide. Caixiang thought that things couldn't get any worse, but he continued to listen to the guide's explanations. The guide warned that the sun was damaging and health would be reduced. Caixiang was horrified to see his health gradually deteriorate. He realized that there was no need to despair and thought that his body was capable of performing unusual pirouettes. The seagull flapped its wings. Caixiang's health continued to decline. He thought his patience had run out and decided to kill the bird, erasing its remains. They were flying over the ocean, but were still close to the shore. Caixiang decided to wait for the seagull to fly further. The ocean is not a starting location, and Caixiang's stats are too low for it. If he gets killed there is a risk of not being resurrected. He decided to first get to a low-level location, and only then think about what to do next. The seagull flew forward, and huge jellyfish swam in the depths. Caixiang thought that in the dense forest, the sun would not cause damage, but he had to be careful not to crash. He decided to try out an unknown skill. He wrapped his tentacles around the seagull's throat, which resisted, but Caixiang did not retreat. The skill drained health, and Caixiang saw his own health increase. A message appeared. Congratulations! You have successfully activated an unknown skill. Skill experience +1. Current skill mastery level -1. Name: Parasite. Description: a weak creature like you can only survive by parasitizing others with your tentacles. The effect deals damage based on your XP and restores some XP over 20 seconds. If the target's XP drops to 0, parasitism is activated. Caixiang mounted the seagull and activated the parasitism skill, feeling an unusual strength and affection for the bird. He realized that he could now control Chaika's body and see through her eyes. Caixiang foresaw how this skill would help him fight huge monsters. The seagull began to fall and flew down towards the forest, and Caixiang tried to maintain control over its body. A message appeared on the screen about rewards for the first exit from the starting village. Caixiang received the title Pioneer, an unknown skill book, unknown equipment, and 1,000 gold. He realized that he had become the first player to leave the starting village on the server. Lin Yao stood on the ground, holding a blade that could be renamed and developed. Blade characteristic: developing artifact, skill, growing desire. Description of the weapon: it evolves with the owner, gaining power from the blood of enemies. Using another weapon allows you to gain its skill. Lin Yao had a unique skill, Weapon Master, which allowed him to master any weapon. Skill description: look for opportunities to obtain special abilities. The huge level 5 fire poison ants were approaching him. He began to run forward and strike with his blade at the attacking ants. Basic blade techniques were activated. One strike would kill a level 6 spotted spider. The red-eyed, black-furred boars of the 8th level were no problem. The 9th level unholy dryads were destroyed without any effort. Even the location boss, the demonic sea bull, was no threat to Ling Yao. A message appeared about rewards. 5 additional attribute points. Bloodthirsty pet. Black dragon. Evolving artifact. Blade. Unique skill: Weapon Master. Special class scroll and quest: the path to becoming a god. Special reward: number 1 received. Lin Yao thought the account suited him, but the character's face and body looked ugly. He opened the character status window. Race, Guardian of Tseng Mu, Level 0.1. Name, Blinding Sun. Character skill, Weapon Master. Intelligence, 5. Strength, 16. Stamina, 5. Charisma, 1. Agility, 10. Health, 11. The status showed all the characteristics of the character in detail. Ling Yao noticed something flying in the sky and realized that it was a divine artifact that had fallen. It was the helmet of the anonymous commander. Helmet characteristic, divine artifact. Helmet skills, incognito, hiding all information about the character if desired. The general's authority intimidates humanoid enemies, reducing their stats by 10%. Damage dealt to enemies increases by 30%. Description: the helmet can be taken to the main city, although the path may not be easy. He thought the helmet would help cover the character's ugly face. Qingxi Village. Warriors with high stats were looking for cute girls to join the group. Players explained that you can't create a female character if you're a man. A real girl can join the group. A third-level scarecrow would appear nearby, which the whole group had to fight. The boys talked about the need to catch 4 more. The players screamed, running through the mazes, trying to catch the monsters. Lin Yao heard questions about class changes and how to fight without skills. The voice of the female mage was asking Lin Yao for help. Lin Yao knew that he needed help and noticed that 2 other girls had come with her. He thought about Qiqing and noted that Qiqing's body was beautiful. There were screams and panic in the forest, Qingxian screaming for rescue, and Zhang Lingyao. Qixiang was in the form of a jellyfish, lying on the ground, surrounded by danger. Ants were approaching and eating his flesh, as well as the remains of a dead seagull. He realized that his account had been stolen, and his seagull had died. Qixiang activated the cancellation of the connection skill to regain control. He began to run away from the ants, his health gradually decreasing. The ants continued to pursue him, creating a constant threat. Desperation pushed him to make quick decisions and maneuver in the forest. One of the ants bit Cexiang's tentacles and bit off part of his limb. Xixiang prepared for a counterattack and aimed at the ant's weak point. The first attack was ineffective. He continued to try to break through the defense with normal punches, but to no avail. Xixiang decided to use the parasitism skill, wrapping his tentacles around the ant. He realized that parasitism allowed one to take over a creature's body and ignore its defenses. Xixiang planned to repeat the skill several times to ensure its effectiveness. A message appeared. Enemy resistance is too great. Parasitism failed. Xixiang's tentacles and began to suck out his health. The poisoning reached its maximum. The expected effects did not work. Xixiang realized that his body's characteristics were insufficient despite his strong skill. He realized that he might soon die and would not be able to be resurrected. Xixian's head. Parasitism worked on the seagull because it was an ordinary animal. It didn't work on the ants because they were monsters with stats higher than his level. He thought about parasitizing on dead creatures, as some fungi do. Cordyceps and Poacelomaces controlled dead bodies, which could have been a survival method for a weak body. Xixiang reached his tentacle towards the dead body of the ant, trying to extract energy. The ant ran after him, but the parasitism worked. The corpse rose to its feet. Xixiang controlled the ant's body, being on its head. Another ant nearby was surprised, looking at the revived corpse. Although the parasitism had been successful, Xixiang understood that he could be discovered. The ants picked him up and began to carry him to the anthill, mistaking him for the corpse of a relative. Xixiang realized that he was safe for now. A message appeared. He entered the final boss's dungeon and opened the quest, The Story of One Boy. He received the quest item, The Boy's Dagger. Xixiang was surprised by his rewards and thought about how to deal with the boss if he couldn't kill the normal mobs. Sessin was inside an anthill where there was almost no light. He opened his inventory and saw a reward. 1,000 gold. 2 helmets cost 19,000. I had to keep quiet so that my mother wouldn't find out. opened the characteristics window, messages about the title discoverer appeared. The skill Heart of the Brave gave a chance to resurrect once a day. The gluttony skill has been added, allowing you to absorb other skills for experience. The evasion skill with a divine artifact allowed one to teleport 3 times a day. Sessin recalled his previous rewards. Resurrection, experience, and a teleportation ring made his efforts worthwhile. There were messages about the quests, the opener, and the story of one boy. Progress 0%, clues unknown, quest item given, boy's dagger. Xiang didn't read the long descriptions and decided to focus on the skills. He activated the gluttony skill to absorb abilities. Suddenly, a new creature appeared in front of him. Xian studied its appearance, surprised. He tried to use parasitism without allowing the skill of the ant he was parasitizing to be completely absorbed. Xian watched the fiery poison spit and used the gluttony skill, absorbing the skill. He reached level 2, and there were reports of a promotion and the ability to absorb the skills of parasitized creatures for accelerated development. The ants continued to move along the tunnel with him, heading towards the illuminated area. Coming out into the light, they threw the corpse. It peeled off the dead ant and jumped onto the stone. Xiang smiled, realizing that he had successfully escaped and was able to maintain control of the situation. Qixin smiled, feeling like the king of parasitism and gluttony. Its tentacles reached out to the rest of the corpses, activating the gluttony skill. There were reports of experience points being gained. He reached level 3, then quickly level 4. Realizing that the experience gained from absorbing the same skill was less, Xiang became more attentive. Touching a level 1 ant gave him 10 health, changing the value from 170 to 180. He was surprised. These creatures were so weak and fragile, although recently he himself could not inflict a single unit of damage on them. Suddenly, something new fell out of the remains. White aphid honey, grown by fire ants, fell to him. 1 drop could restore half of his health. Xiang happily picked it up, understanding its value. The rest of the aphids were upset and cried as they looked at him. A message appeared. He received 30 pieces of aphid white honey. Xiang realized that he could now confront the ant queen. One of the ants carefully carried a ball of white honey to its queen. The queen ant extended her huge paw, carefully took the honey, but at the same moment grabbed the ant and swallowed it whole, demonstrating ruthless power over his subordinates. Sessin straddled one of the ants, moving forward in the nest, knowing full well that the queen was deep below. He laughed, feeling excitement, and soon found himself in one of the compartments where the honey balls were kept. Deciding to take advantage of the moment, he began collecting honey, thinking that this resource was extremely valuable in the early stages of the game, and it can bring not only money, but also pleasure from the process. There were aphids lying around, the other ants continued their business, and Sessin separated from the dead ant, using this for camouflage. The other ants watched his actions in surprise, but he had already landed on the ground. One of the ants spat poisonous liquid at him, but Sessin was not afraid. His health was only slightly at risk, but he felt confident. He could predict the movements of his opponents. He ran up to one of the ants, focusing on its weak spot. The blow was accurate, and he split the ant in half. Even if his body was weak, he was ready to challenge anyone who dared to stand in his way. The remaining parts of the ants flew apart, and Sessin felt a surge of strength and confidence. The thought of his sister burned inside him. He had to prove to himself and the world that he was capable of the impossible. He repeated to himself, "Little sister, you will definitely wake up. He will fix everything and show what only he is capable of." Every move, every blow was filled with determination and inner strength, making Sessin feel like the master of his own destiny in this cruel game. Xiang stood among the corpses of ants, realizing that thanks to his determination and skills, he had reached the 6th and then the 7th level. His gaze darted over the loot dropped by the slain enemies. The helmets and armor of the ant soldiers provided bonuses to speed and defense, which pleased him. The monetary reward was modest, only 50 gold, and the desired honey did not fall out because it accidentally destroyed the aphids. He carefully equipped all the items and looked at his body, noticing that the armor was not displayed correctly. A message appeared about the creation of a new advanced blue combo with a knife. The skill's attack increased by 20%, and the damage of each attack in the combo increased by 5%. He was asked to name the combo, and he reproduced the sequence of his punches. A blow to the head, a stab to the heart, a blow to the stomach, a cut-off tail. Chaexiang understood that his skills did not depend on pre-prepared combinations. He could improvise and create his own unique techniques. He took the knife and began to move forward, destroying the remaining ants in his path, feeling his strength and confidence grow with each successful strike. The new combo became a tool that allowed him to level up even faster and control battles, making every action more precise and destructive. Xi Xiang summoned Heartbreak Blade. A message appeared. Congratulations, you have created an advanced blue knife combo. Skill attack increased by 20%, and damage of each attack in combo increased by 5%. Name your combo. Xi Xiang replied, Diving Eagle Strike. Congratulations, you have created an advanced purple knife combo. The skill's attack is increased by 50%, and the damage of each attack in the combo is increased by 10%. Name your combo. Xijin thought he was too lazy to think of a name. Let it be First Knife, he decided. Congratulations, you have created an advanced blue knife combo. The skill's attack is increased by 20%, and the damage of each attack in the combo is increased by 5%. Name your combo. Sacian decided to call it Second Knife. A message appeared. Congratulations, you have created an advanced purple knife combo. Skill attack increased by 50%, and damage of each attack in combo increased by 10%. Name your combo Third Knife, Fourth, Fifth, 56th Knife. Gluttony, absorb all these skills, commanded Chaexiang. Messages appeared. Congratulations, you have reached level 10. Recommendation: leave the newbie village and go to the main city to change classes. You have reached the maximum level at the moment. After changing your class, you will be able to continue to level up. Xi Xiang, focusing on the power of the gluttony skill, mentally commanded the toad to return, keeping it under control. Chaexiang pondered the intricacies of the game's combo mechanics. He realized that all of his previous combos, from 1 to 56, used the same set of moves: a blow to the head, a stab to the heart, a blow to the stomach, a cut-off tail. But by slightly varying the order or intensity of each strike, each combination can become unique. He figured that if he could control the execution of each stroke individually, even small changes would add up to hundreds. Xi Xiang remembered how in the previous game he had honed his skills by cutting down the mountain peaks and cutting down all the trees in the forest. He understood that thanks to this, every blow with a knife or dagger was honed to perfection. And for him, there was practically nothing impossible. A message appeared about the creation of a legendary golden combat skill. Now he could use any attack in a combo with a 100% increase in damage. Xi Xiang realized that the skill required a suitable name, one that had to reflect its strength and individuality. He also realized that in battle it was necessary to shout out the name to frighten opponents and emphasize one's authority. Naming a skill was a real art. Chaexiang finally decided to call his new skill Blade of the One Who Will Become a Superstar in 7 days. He thought it was pretty good, since he used the first 2 characters from his nickname. However, the system automatically shortened it to 7-Star Blade. Chaexiang muttered angrily about the shitty system, but quickly switched to his stats. He had 10 points, 3 of which he put into health and 7 into strength. Due to the blade's effect, his strength doubled to 14 points, which impressed him. Given his parasitism skill, he felt that he would be much stronger than the other players, even though Zhang Lingyao preferred to play on a more advanced account. Suddenly, Chaexiang heard his own stomach rumble. It was time for a snack. Xi Xiang took off his helmet and felt very hungry as he sat on the bed. He asked Tang Hui if there was anything to eat. Tang Hua, happily seeing that Che Xiang had left the game, immediately pulled his hand and said that something important had happened. He led Cesian into the next room, where he looked at the screen and was very surprised by what he saw. Che Xiang looked at the screen with Tang Hui. The screen displayed important news and a list of players with their nicknames and numbers. His favorite idol with the numbers 0 to 3, Pirosi with 0 to 2, Blinding Sun with 0 to 5, Husky Swarovski with 0 to 1, I am the most beautiful man, from 0 to 7, and the Moon Wanderer from 0 to 8, as well as a player with the nickname Conquering the World with Cats. Cesian looked closely at the list, realizing that he had important information about the key players in front of him. Important news appeared on the screen in front of Che Xiang and Tang Hui. The famous singer, idol Li Xiaoman, will continue her stage activities within the game Ancient Gods. She will train with the player who tops the list of the strongest on the second day after the servers open. Everyone is wondering who will be the best, and how much the developers may have paid to get Shi Xiaoman to switch to the game. Tang Hua commented out loud, and Qing Xiao only wondered if it was possible that the singer herself wanted this. Suddenly, Qing Xiao remembered her. She said that her real name was Xin Xiao, and she was seriously counting on him as a supervisor. To help her level up to max level, she asked to pass on the gear that dropped. Qing Xiao said that they were on a completely different level. Tan Hoa added that there are only positives for her here. Her career can grow, her fan base can increase, because the game has become a real hit. Qing Xiao thought about the possibility of creating a virtual company in the Ancient Gods. Tang Hoa warned him not to scratch the computer. Qing Xiao noticed Zhang Lingyao, who had dyed his hair, and was indignant that he might think he was more handsome than him. Tan Hoa said he had no idea. Tang Hua noted that Qing Xiao had been playing all day and asked what his level was and why he was not on the rankings. Qing Xiao replied that there was no point in rushing at the beginning of the game. It was more important to understand the mechanics. He was sure that he would soon surpass everyone on the list, watching the screen and eating noodles. Tan Hua warned him not to underestimate the players. He had collected information about them. The account that Zhang Lingyao stole was the only one on the server with 99 race points and a value of 48. Second place went to Blinding Suns. In first place was a player with a hidden class account who could control a level 100 angel. I'm the most beautiful man. Third is Pyrosius, a legendary player who has completed the quest line that allows his race to evolve, but only once so far. Overall, all accounts contained strong players who were very lucky. Sen Xiao remained silent, knowing that Tang Hua had already anticipated his reaction. Tan Hua suggested reading the comments, noting that many players think about 7 stars. If he were in this game, he would have topped the list long ago. The player recalled Picture, a player who in the past honed his sword skills by slaughtering the same village. Any players that crossed his path were destroyed. In one game, he killed a dragon 100 times for a perfect result. The developers later renamed the boss from Black Flame to Sad Dragon. 7 Stars has 784 completions, with a record for the fastest kill of the Sad Dragon, a video of which could be found online. The developers then increased the dragon's stats tenfold, which only made Cher even more dangerous. There were also rumors that he would arrange a harem for himself in each game and then pursue girls in real life. They considered him a Pole. Tang Hua laughed as he explained that everyone who had heard anything about Cenixian wanted to unite against him to prevent him from taking over the Ancient Gods. Cenixian explained that it was all because of the guild that hadn't managed to kill the boss before him, and was now spreading rumors about him. He then switched to practical information about the game world. There are 32 quests in Sensi Village, but they give almost no experience to newbies. Killing monsters alone is extremely difficult, so players team up in groups of 3. There are almost no loot drops, and even a regular white sword costs 50 real yuan, and if it has stat bonuses, the price easily reaches 4 digits. Tanghua explained that there are different rarity levels of equipment, skills, and books in the game: common, advanced, rare, and divine. He noted that Zhang Lingyao was incredibly lucky and already had 2 divine items. Qingxiao asked again, surprised that a normal piece of equipment cost 50 yuan. Tanghua confirmed that yes. Qingxian added that he himself had a lot of it, because he cut out an entire anthill, leaving himself only white honey to restore his health. Qingxiao, noticing Tanghua's drool, yelled at him to wipe it off. Tanghua explained that he had his own leveling area with plenty of loot. I had to go get it before it was collected by other players or monsters. Qingxiao, slightly irritated, looked at the screen, at his favorite idol. Qingxiao, while in the game, he went to collect the remaining loot in the anthill. He hummed a melody and moved deeper, looking around carefully. At some point, he stopped and looked up, amazed by the size of the monster he saw that had appeared near the newcomer's village. Qingxiao hid behind a rock, watching the queen ant. He was shocked by her size and presence. At first glance, it seemed that she had not noticed him yet, so he tried to remain unnoticed. After analyzing the status, Qingxiao obtained the following information: name, Fire Ant Queen, type, boss, class 50, maximum race value 25, level 50. The skill was impossible to determine due to the large difference in level. Despite this, the queen gave birth to fire ants, although she herself did not seem to be born here. Her stats showed intelligence 10, strength 5, stamina 2, agility 1, health 6, and charisma 1. Qingxiao came to his senses, assessing the situation. He was outraged that players leave the newbie village at level 10, and the developers placed such a powerful monster nearby. He wanted to say a few words to the game designer, but quickly calmed down, realizing that arguing with the system was pointless. A certainty grew inside him. There must be something rare here. He began preparing for the meeting with the queen ant, checking all his equipment and skills. In his arsenal, he had the technique of gluttony, parasitism, the blade of the 7 stars, the skill Heart of the Brave, as well as a full inventory. Soldier ant knives, 15 pieces. Soldier ant helmets, 5 pieces. Soldier ant knife, 12 pieces. Bracers, 8 pieces. Breastplates, 13 pieces. In addition, he had 1,058 G, 132 white aphid honey, another 1,000 gold, heals, and a spare weapon. Everything was ready to meet the powerful boss. Qingxiao looked back and noticed one of the ants trying to carry away the circle of honey. He immediately intervened, taking the honey back into his hands, keeping his weapon at the ready. His gaze was focused and confident, ready for battle. Without wasting any time, he moved to attack, jumping straight at the ant. Activating the 7-star blade, he used all his strength to strike. The ant dodged Qingxiao's attack and counterattacked with its paw, knocking him back. As he fell, Qingxiao managed to grab the round honey and landed on one of the ant's paws. Without wasting any time, he attacked again, jumping onto the queen ant's trunk and using all his strength. The queen's health decreased by 140. Qingxiao noticed a weak spot and swung his knife, preparing to deliver the finishing blow. However, he was suddenly faced with a counterattack. The queen was using magic. Qingxiao was thrown back along with the honey, and realizing the danger, he stretched his tentacles towards the dead ant, activating the parasitism skill to restore strength and prepare for the next attack. The queen approached Qingxiao. He pushed the honey ball towards her, realizing that the difference of 40 levels made the confrontation extremely dangerous. Qingxiao watched the queen carefully and thought about the boss creator's plan, trying to figure out how to defeat the powerful creature. Qingxiao carefully assessed the queen ant. High health and strength, low durability and agility, one attack-deflecting magic skill that protected the lower body. His calculations showed that to defeat her, it would take a group of 5 and possibly even 10 players who had not yet changed classes. He understood that she was a regular boss for newbies, and concluded that her weak point was related to food, since the queen's primary goal was nutrition. Qingqiao began to actively use the honey circles, throwing them at the queen and striking at the same time. His attacks reduced her health by 140. But the queen became angry and swung her paws, catching Qingqiao, who lost health and began to fall. To recover, he ate a drop of honey, realizing that resources were low and planned to optimize his actions by recruiting ant bodies to the fight. Qingxiao lifted the ant's body and used it through parasitism to drain power. The queen approached, he struck, and managed to return to a safe position. While waving honey circles and attracting the queen's attention, he threw honey, hit her, and again sucked on the body of the dead ant, using it for attacks and recovery. There were many honey balls near the queen, which Qingxiao collected with his tentacles, optimizing his strategy. He distributed the bait and the bodies of dead ants so that the queen was constantly distracted by them, creating a triangle of interaction. Thanks to this, he could attack her and avoid damage at the same time. Gradually, the queen's health dropped to its lowest level, and Qingxiao smiled, satisfied with his 7-star triangle tactics. Qingxiao used the 7-star blade, dealing a powerful blow to the queen. She screamed in pain, and the blow proved fatal. Qingxiao cut off her head. A system message immediately appeared. He killed the boss, a mutated fire ant queen, and completed the dungeon alone, receiving an experience bonus of plus 400%. He was given the title Miracle Worker, which allows him to cancel the effect of a random event once every 24 days. Qingxiang also received a level 600 pet egg, a mutated fire ant queen. The system suggested upgrading skills. Select Upgrade Skill Quality 3 times, or Transform Skill 1 time. Qingxiao, tired, sat on the floor and laughed, satisfied with the skill upgrade. He noticed that he could only choose one upgrade. The rarity of the skill Parasitism was common. He could pump it to Legendary, but he wanted to strengthen Gluttony as well. Qingxiao activated the title Miracle Worker and chose the transformation for Parasitism. The skill has a 98.6% chance of mutating into Symbiosis. The new mutation allowed one to become invisible when using Parasitism, use it safely, and, if the target's will was broken, completely control the victim. Qingxiao carefully analyzed the new capabilities of his skills. Parasitism dealt damage equal to the enemy's own HP over 20 seconds, while providing partial health restoration. If the enemy's HP dropped to 0 after the skill ended, the Parasitism effect would activate. Symbiosis allowed complete control over the victim if their will was broken, and only worked on opponents with less health or on dead creatures. Debuff, a negative effect, weakened the target, making it vulnerable to symbiosis. Qingxiao looked at Loot, the divine artifact, and was delighted when colorful balls began to play around it. Suddenly, he noticed that the artifact had disappeared. The legendary item did not appear, and Qingxiao, confused, began to look for it, as if it was calling him to himself. Qingxiao asked for support, describing the situation with the divine artifact. He claimed to have seen the light of the legendary item among the 8 dropped items and provided a video to prove it. The girl checking the bug stopped him and noticed an extra ball. A bug. She apologized and promised to give Qingxiao a divine artifact that matched his level. Qingxiao noted that the game Ancient Gods was released 3 days ago, and he had already played about 60 hours, losing his first account. The girl confirmed that he did indeed have 2 accounts, and expressed surprise that he had discovered such a serious bug so quickly. Later, another employee appeared, responsible for fixing bugs and compensation. She apologized for the inconvenience and asked what Qingxiao would like as compensation. Qingxiao stated that he wanted to get the second reward for defeating the boss and level up the skills Gluttony and Parasitism. A message appeared about the possibility of improving the quality of skills 3 times. He activated the upgrade, and the Symbiosis skill first increased to rare quality, and then to legendary. If the target's will is broken, Qingxiao can now parasitize the victim's body and completely control them. The body it parasitizes gains the same amount of experience as Qingxiao himself. The skill Gluttony has been upgraded to legendary level. All skills absorbed by it can be used again. Gluttony growth is activated 0/2, which corresponds to the level of the legendary skill. Qingxiao noticed that the previous information was false, but he switched to the rewards. The fang, cloak, and helmet of the Hope of the Ant tribe, and the breastplate, the high-grade crystal core of the Queen Ant, appeared. Money, 200G, as well as the sword, helmet, and greaves of the Soldier Ant. He was puzzled. The object he looked at had no name, quality, effect, or description. Qingxiao looked at the strange object. The hand, clearly a divine artifact. It did not cause damage, but it looked mysterious. To understand its value, Qingxiao hit a dead ant with it and decided to find an appraiser. He turned to Tanhua, who had not changed his nickname. Through the game menu, they began to communicate. Qingxiao explained that he was in a dungeon and had just killed a level 50 boss. Tanhua noted that Blinding Sun himself had barely dealt with a level 30 demonic ox, and he suggested making a promotional video about Qingxiao's achievements. He refused, fearing that his enemies would notice his condition. He asked Tanhua for the appraiser's contact information and the class change information. Tanhua replied that he would do it in 10 minutes. Qingxiao watched Tanhua carefully, with a serious expression on his face. He noticed the stone behind him and directed his actions. He made sure that it was facing the stone, then began to gradually move it forward, strictly watching that it did not turn or make unnecessary movements. As Tanhua lowered his head at his command, a green-haired girl suddenly appeared in front of them. Tanhua was right in front of her chest. The girl was so shocked by the sudden closeness that she screamed before she could understand what was happening. A message appeared indicating the end of the current conversation, and Qingxiao chuckled as he thought about his next steps. He planned to identify the new artifact and change his class, but suddenly noticed that he received a quest before the dungeon. The system reported that he was the first to find the final boss dungeon in Qinshi village, and started the quest, The Boy's Story. Qingxiao received the quest item, The Boy's Dagger. The quest progress was 0% so far. The description said that the village elder knows something about the boy, and you need to go to him for information or items. Qingxiao realized that he should have taken the dagger to the village chief before entering the dungeon, but he decided to clear the dungeon first. He wondered how this decision would affect the plot of the quest, realizing that usually in such quests, there are several possible branches of development of events. Qingxiao was walking through the anthill when a boy with half a head suddenly appeared behind him. He noticed the movement and tried to stab him with a knife, shouting. But the knife slipped out of his hands, and the boy managed to strike first. The boy took the knife and left, leaving Qingxiao lying on the floor with his body pierced. Thanks to the skill Heart of the Brave, Qingxiao was able to resurrect with his health fully restored. This skill can be used once per day, rewarding the true warrior for his bravery. The progress of the quest, The Boy's Story, has been updated on the screen, 50%. The description stated that meeting the boy opened up a new plot thread, how he ended up in this state, and whether someone could save him. The system marked on the map the place where his master lives, opening the second branch of the quest. Branch 1, do not enter the dungeon and go to the village elder. Branch 2, enter the dungeons, meet the boy, die, lose the dagger, and go to his master. Qingxiao noticed a small mound in the ground and jumped towards it. He realized that the dagger the boy had left behind might be hidden there. If he took the dagger back, he would be able to complete both branches of the quest, he thought with a slight grin. Coming closer, Qingxiao saw that the boy's face was hidden underground. He was partially buried in the ground, hiding. Qingxiao dug out the dagger and got it back. He looked around to make sure no one would kill him. Approaching the ant's body, he attached himself, testing the effectiveness of parasitism. Qingxiao planned to absorb the queen's skill, but the skill did not activate. All the essence ended up in the egg of the mutated fire ant queen, which was now listed in the inventory as a level 600 pet. Qingxiao walked outside, looking around and wondering what kind of monster he could use parasitism on. Suddenly, a pillar of fire appeared in front of him. and next to it stood a guy with a staff. He called it an advanced monster with an ultra-rare class. The guy was a monster trainer. He considered Qing Xiao to be a monster capable of speech and around level 500. The guy offered Qing Xiao to become his pet, but he refused. The player was surprised by the level of intelligence of the creature and tried to understand who he was dealing with. Qing Xiao turned around and left, but the guy started launching fire attacks at him. Qing Xiao received the blow while holding the honey ball with his tentacles while trying to fend off the attack. The guy stood opposite, clearly intending to fight to the death to get his way. Qing Xiao activated the flare, shouted and attacked with his blade, fighting despite the suddenness of the attack. He thought that he just wanted to play in peace and earn money, and he wondered why he was constantly being interrupted. The ant tribe's Fang of Hope increased Qing Xiao's strength in battle and added 75% additional fire and poison damage. Inflicting burn and poison effects for 360 seconds, the queen, hoping to save her race, came with the expectation of a bright future, which added meaning to her presence in the battle. Other players suddenly appeared from behind the bushes, a knight and two girls. They ran up to the fallen man and screamed. Frozen in amazement, they watched as Xiao walked away. The knight ordered the girls to stand behind him. Lango must resurrect Ruo, and Xiang must attack with magic from afar. The knight prepared to attack, using the battle cry, "Warriors Thrust," and moved forward. Qing Xiao heard a voice and turned around to see the knight. He recognized him immediately and realized that he had come to him himself, although Qing Xiao had not intended to look for him. Without wasting any time, Qing Xiao extended a tentacle towards the fallen player and attached itself to him. The knight tried to strike but missed, and Qing Xiao jumped to the side. He walked up to one of the healer girls and activated a new skill. The girl was frightened when his tentacles wrapped around her, and Qing Xiao used the power of symbiosis. The girl screamed and tried to break free as Qing Xiao wrapped his tentacles around her. He discovered information about the symbiosis skill. If a test of will is failed, the target becomes completely controllable, and the main body and the symbiote share experience points. Qing Xiao continued to use symbiosis, forcing the target to obey. The knight tried to intervene and attacked with his sword, but Qing Xiao jumped up, activated the symbiosis, and attached himself to the girl's head. The symbiosis worked, and they began to level up together with the player Mountain Valley Orchid. The girl took the staff and used it, causing serious damage to the knight. The girl, under Qing Xiao's influence, struck Lan Qiao with her staff, causing him to fall to the ground. She smiled, and Qing Xiao realized that after the symbiosis, he could use all the attributes and skills of her body. A message appeared with the characteristics. ID, Mountain Valley Orchid, Level 10, Race Value 33, Life Class, High Magic Life. Intelligence 12, Stamina 5, Strength 1, Dexterity 3, Charisma 7, Health 5. Mountain Valley Orchid's specialization is Priest. No occupation, no title, no technique. Skills include non-combat resurrection, allowing a dead player to be resurrected, and Divine Light Healing, in which light transfers heat to the target creature and is directed by the player to heal. When using the 7-star blade, the strength value is applied. Medusa's body adds its attributes. Intelligence 12, Strength 14, Health 5, Charisma 7, Dexterity 3, Stamina 5. Qing Xiao thought that if he could use symbiosis on his first super account, no one would be able to surpass him. He asked the knight. He wasn't standing in line for the helmet. He didn't know who he really was, a monster or a player. The knight, beaten and lying on the ground, replied that he had found a small-time dealer who had stood in line for him to buy a helmet, and that he was a businessman who did not waste his time. The energy he would have spent in the queue was directed towards leveling up, and now he is in the top 1,000 players on the server. The knight noted that Qing Xiao was a player with a special race and was quite strong. He offered to hire him, noting that the payment depended on the results. If Qing Xiao doesn't kill as many monsters as he and his team did, the price will be lower. Embracing Qing Xiao, the knight declared that he was willing to pay 100 gold pieces per hour. emphasizing that those who work hard earn more, and expressed confidence in Qingqiao's abilities. Qingxian healed him with the power of divine light. He added that Qingqiao must obey his orders and show his skills and attributes first. Qingqiao agreed with a smile, clutching the staff in his hand. The knight was immediately hit in the face with a staff. The girl Qingxiao, using divine light healing, hit him on the head several times, alternating healing with blows. As a result, the knight ended up completely tortured on the floor, and Qingqiao was sucking on his head. He took all the available loot: the divine knight's order, the broken sword, the strong armor, the wood demon's knife, the wood man's branch, healing potion X10, greystone, fluorite, and blue heart herb. Qingxiao learned the divine knight's order, a rare item with a 70% combat power bonus and a 30% increase in melee damage, and the skills Divine Knight's Decree, which allows you to acquire the Knight class with a 10% increase in all attributes, and Divine Choice, which transfers the character's attributes to the mount. He smiled, imagining himself as a knight. After the symbiosis was cancelled, Qingxiao, standing over the defeated players, left them with minimal remains, and prepared to deal with the main culprit. Carefully stretching his tentacles towards the healer, he assured her that he would not harm her. The girl resisted and screamed, asking to let her go. Qingxiao sucked on the girl, mentally imagining how he would put a small cap on her and use her body. He assessed the situation with the prone knight, deciding that he would not object. A feeling arose inside him that something was missing, but he shook the thought away. At this time, a message appeared about the call to the arrogant nugget. Qingqiao called Tanhua. He ran, out of breath, dodging arrows flying over his head. The green-haired girl chased after him on horseback, using her triple shot ability, causing Tanhua to weave between the rocks in an attempt to dodge. Tanhua ran with all his might, shouting and using a health recovery potion at the same time. Tanhua looked back and was amazed at her strength. She had possessed a divine artifact from the very beginning of the game. Qingxiao watched the events unfold, but focused on his goal, finding the information he needed. Tanhua managed to send the coordinates, Qinshi Village, and the position of the required NPC. He also reported about a first-class magical pet that could control people by hiding behind a stone. Perseus gathered hundreds of people around him, and the blinding sun also went there. Tanhua was going to bring a girl to join the fun, but Qingqiao decided to focus on leveling up and changing classes. The pet's skills weren't stronger than his own yet, so he chose to stay away and not be distracted from the mission. From the coordinates, Qingqiao determined the exact location of the magical pet that controls people, and realized that it was him. A man with a sword appeared behind Qingqiao. It was another knight. Qingqiao turned around and recognized him. It was Blinding Sun. He smiled back. Lantiao was surprised that Qingqiao knew him. It was good that he took off his helmet. As soon as he did so, his popularity began to rise. Blinding Sun thought that he would be easily recognized now. Qingqiao reminded him to respect female players. Lantiao reacted angrily and threatened with his sword, asking where the monster was, threatening to kill him if there was no answer. Qingqiao reported that he knew where the monster was. It attacked his party members and ran away in a certain direction. Lantiao went in that direction, promising that he would deal with Qingqiao later. A message appeared stating that Qingqiao had successfully equipped the Ant Tribe's Blade of Hope. Bonus to combat power 75%. Additional fire and poison damage. Apply burning and poison status for 360 seconds. Qingqiao raised his sword, ready to see what it was capable of. Qingqiao realized that Lantiao hoped to use his account to take second place in the top, but he himself could not replace him. He swung, but felt a weight on the front of his body, almost losing his balance. Lantiao turned around and noticed the trick, but in response he received a blow to the neck with a sword, after which he fell to the ground, losing some health. Lantiao screamed, certain that Qingqiao was going to finish him off. Qin Xiao noted that the damage dealt was too small, and the burning and poisoning effects did not work at all. He swung again and charged at Lan Tian. Their blades met, clanging loudly against each other. At that moment, Qin Xiao felt the power of a real super account, and with a grin began to dodge the counterattack, preparing to deliver his own. With a sharp movement, he struck Lan Tian's hand, knocking the sword from his fingers. Jumping back, Qin Xiao severed the connection with the girl's body and directed the tentacle straight at the enemy, activating the parasitism skill. The message appeared, "Parasitism is a failure." Qin Xiao chuckled, as if he had foreseen this outcome. This was part of his plan, a distraction to buy time. At the same moment, he jumped to the side, intercepted the fallen blade in the air and squeezed it, taking the trophy. Then the tentacle darted towards the knight's body, still lying on the ground. This time the connection was established. Parasitism worked. The sinewy threads dug into the flesh, and Qin Xiao felt the other's body shudder, yielding to his will. Control had been seized. Having risen already in the guise of a knight, he hurriedly headed towards the forest, leaving behind the battlefield and his defeated opponents. But Lan Tiao remained rooted to the spot, shocked and powerless. The thought, burning and humiliating, sounded again and again in his head. He was bent over. A very rare and unique race had a frightening ability. One touch of tentacles to the player's head, and his body would completely come under control. The girl reported this to Perosi, who was sitting on the throne. She described everything she had managed to see. The man frowned and asked why she hadn't intervened after the defeat of the blinding sun. With her skill in combat, she could have defeated the enemy. However, Iceflower objected. Blinding Sun was the second-best player, and a direct confrontation with him could jeopardize the entire mission. She then added that a professional player had already been hired to track down Medusa. The man on the throne, after listening to her report, nodded with satisfaction. His voice sounded calm and commanding. The reward was deserved. A system notification popped up before the girl's eyes. Message: "You have received the item, Frost Armor. Defense bonus, plus 45%. Cold damage resistance, plus 100. You have received an item, Frost Dragon Shield. Defense bonus, plus 60%. Additional skill, Ice Strike. Deals additional damage of 30% and freezes the enemy." The girl thanked the master. Perosius ordered to change the equipment right there. She was surprised. The man said he would cut his interest rate in half this week and smiled. The girl looked at him angrily and started taking off her gear. The man looked at it and said that it was very good. This game is very unusual, with unlimited content and potential. He said that if she listened and believed in herself, she would be able to pay off her debts very quickly. At this time, the men in the forest were looking for the monster that controlled the people. They carefully searched every bush, checking all possible hiding places. Suddenly, a scream was heard. The men rushed towards the sound, expecting to find a target, but in front of them was only a strange fish with legs, attacking a man. They thought he was weak, and realized that this was not the monster they were looking for. One of the men, scared, screamed that he was going to die. At this time, Qin Xiao was on top of a tree, watching the men in the forest. He smiled as he thought about what was happening. To demonstrate the weapon's properties, he called up a dialogue box. A message about the sunset blade appeared on the screen. The description stated that the artifact could be renamed, it was a growth artifact, gave a 100% bonus to combat power, and could increase its stats. Skills included growing desires during combat and a chance to master another type of weapon. Blade of the Sunset had additional effects. During the attack, fire damage was added to the main damage, impact softening was activated, and 20% damage absorption was absorbed. Counterattack and damage reflection by 10% were activated, and a fiery aura was formed around the character. When attacked, the weapon had a 30% chance of dealing fire spell damage to the enemy, corresponding to the player's level. Qin Xiao was beside himself with anger. The blinding sun had destroyed his precious blade, which seemed simply unforgivable. The artifact was perfect, capable of learning skills, and now it was corrupted, turned into a defensive weapon. Qingxiao repeated how furious he was, unable to contain his anger. Qingxian activated the gluttony skill, and a black spirit representing the skill appeared in front of him. He planned to use it wisely, keeping the ability for himself if the situation required it. His gaze was probably attracted by the fiery aura. At the top of the tree, people saw him and screamed. Lightning struck, and Lantian approached, calling for them to catch their opponents. Qingxian started to run away, amazed that he was found in just 5 minutes. Players surrounded Qingxiao, using every skill they had: freeze, fog, entangling vines, grabs, to keep him under control. Qingxiao himself. Meanwhile, Qingxiao activated parasitism, sending tentacles towards one of the players. The girl used resistance halo to throw him aside, thinking that she had made Qingxiao fly a bit. The players coordinated their actions, using skills and keeping him in the air. Qingxiao smiled slyly. This was all a carefully planned tactical retreat. He activated parasitism, directing the power towards the nearest target. At this time, the guy stood over the dead fish with legs, amazed that he was still able to fight back. Suddenly, Qingxiao's tentacle grabbed the fish, and it ran into the forest as if it was under control. The guy was dumbfounded, not believing what was happening. Qingxiao grinned and prepared to take his leave, and decided not to run away again after changing classes. But at the very moment when he tried to leave, an arrow flew into his side. The arrow was shot by a green-haired girl who was working together with his friend. Tanho stood next to the girl, smiling as he watched the scene. Qingxiao jumped away from the dead fish and jumped straight towards him. Tanhuo was surprised when Qingxiao activated parasitism. It suddenly dissolved into thin air in his hands. Tanho was at a loss as hundreds of eyes turned towards him. At that time, Qingxiao had already found himself in the ant cave. He felt relieved and happy as he used the evasion skill through the divine artifact that allowed him to teleport to a place he had already been to 3 times a day. Qingxiao took off his helmet and found himself in a room, lying on a bed. Next to him, in a special gaming chair, sat Tanhao. Qingxiao glanced at his friend and noted that he would get it. The green-haired girl screamed and struggled as Tanhua grabbed her and started running away. The crowd behind them was chasing them and shouting to send someone to the entrance of the village to detain them. The girl asked to be put on the ground immediately. Tanhua stood firm, not intending to let the girl go despite her protests about the magical pet. The girl pinched his cheek, but suddenly Tanhua woke up. Qingxiao took off his helmet. The girl collapsed to the ground right in front of the crowd, screaming for retribution. Tanhuo smiled, expressing gratitude. But at the same moment, Qingxiao suddenly grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and pulled him towards himself. Xiu spoke indignantly about how he dared to team up with outsiders and surround him. He realized that the person in front of him was Medusa Xiao, and the situation seemed too confusing to him. Thinking back, he realized that he had never seen Qingxiao's game avatar. From the very beginning of the game, Xiao found himself in a dungeon, and now didn't understand what was going on at all. Tanhua noted that it would be better for them to stop communicating for a while. Qingxiao demanded an explanation while shaking him, while Tanhuo only plaintively asked him to stop. Tanhua said that Pirosi has a quest called The Path to Becoming a God, which is a chain of 5 tasks given by the goddess of the earth. By completing each part of the quest, Pirosius would have a chance to evolve or obtain a powerful item. Qingxiao noted that he seemed to have a similar quest. Qingxiao had heard of hints from God-level NPCs, and he wondered what this had to do with him. Tanhua reminded that Piros had not yet defeated the final boss, the Fire Ant Queen, and Qingxiao had already dealt with her. Qingxiao noted that after appearing in the world, he was not eager to fight the boss right away. Less than 70 hours have passed since the server was launched. During this time, Pirosi put in a lot of effort to take 3rd place in the top and has already defeated 3 bosses. Qingxiao added that he spent almost 60 hours in this level. Tanhua explained that the Earth Goddess became angry and ordered Perozes to capture Qingxiao and bring him to her. The little witch reported that she was attacked by an unknown creature, and Perozes somehow immediately found Qingxiao's trail. Qingxiao suggested meeting him and hoping that the misunderstanding could be resolved. They decided not to push the issue, but to show that they were not timid. If Perozes uses force, then he will know what the name of the 7 stars means. Qingxiao smiled. Tanhua noted that the situation was not at all scary. Qingxiao informed him of the need to enter the game and sent him the coordinates so that he could take him to the village to change classes. The news of the 7 stars returning to the ancient gods appeared. Qingxiao thought about collecting equipment in the anthill to sell later. Tanhua and the girl approached him, which raised questions about what was going on. The girl recalled that Tianhua claimed that he had not caught the jellyfish, to which Qingxiao demanded respect. Tanhua's face was left with a mark from the slap. He explained that the girl had already lost a level after her previous defeat, and now they were enemies, and she could not be eliminated. Qingxiao offered to use Tanhua's body for a short time and activated the symbiosis, wrapping his tentacles around the girl before she could scream. Tanhua was left in shock by what was happening. Qingxiao demanded that they not look at him. After the merger, the attributes became extremely powerful. Tanhua's face and inquired about them. Tanhua reminded him that he had wanted to develop a relationship with the girl before, but assured him that everything was fine now. The location of the move indicated Qinshi village, and both activated their abilities. They went to the class change section, where a message appeared asking about changing the class to a knight and asking them to confirm the action. Qingxiao clarified the possibility of paying only a commission of 100 gold, without immediately purchasing a war horse for 200 gold and knight equipment for 250 gold. The man explained that a knight without a horse and armor is not formally considered a full-fledged knight, but allowed him to return later for the remaining equipment. After that, the system issued a series of messages. The choice of the knight class was confirmed. Experience points were automatically redistributed to increase the character's level. Qingxiao received notifications for reaching level 11, 12, and 17, recording his progress and increase in combat capabilities. Qingxiao noticed that his money had disappeared. 550 gold had been debited from his account, and his equipment was still not showing up even though he was equipped with knight armor. He left the department and headed towards Tanhua to sell the extra items from the inventory together. Suddenly, an old man approached them and offered them a class change scroll for 1,000 gold. Tanhua immediately noticed that he was a scam NPC. Many people bought scrolls from him, which turned out to be useless. Qingxiao, without hesitation, asked Tanhua to lend him 300 gold coins and quickly moved towards the old men, ignoring his friend's warnings. The old man explained that anyone who receives this scroll is blessed by the gods. Whoever manages to use it can become a god. Qingxiao took the scroll, and question marks instantly appeared on the screen. He chuckled. Lucky for him, this was the decision he would regret most in his life. But it was predetermined, and now irreversible. Piratus brought the items he had earned from completing 4 quests, but the boy's dagger was missing. He had a skull, maps, a fireboy, and letters. The goddess reminded him that when the gods speak, one must kneel. Piratus was astonished, but did not bow. One of his hands turned to stone. He tried to free himself, but the goddess, possessing magical powers, reminded him of his insignificance. Piratus realized that he had committed a serious crime, and, kneeling down, asked to be allowed to leave and complete the quest as soon as possible. In his thoughts, he still planned to take revenge someday, because the game had only just begun. The goddess closed the question of Piratus's disrespect, promising not only to spare him, but also to reward him. From the depths of the earth, she extracted hundreds of rare ores, life source minerals, dragon blood crystals, and fossils of wild animals. In her hands was an unfinished artifact, the stone fruit of the 9 keys, which had a level of 999. A stone ball with multicolored pebbles fell into Pirotus's hand. He stood in a long corridor where once living, now dead creatures had become part of this stone. The goddess explained that they had turned to stone and would one day be reborn into a new life, because life is cyclical. The goddess told Pirotus to follow the stone. It will show him the right path. He was told to get the blood of a monkey and let the stone absorb it in order to become a demigod, raise his level to 1,000, and make the stone his assistant. Then Pirotus had to bring the Medusa and the dagger. The 999-level artifact, according to Pirotus's estimates, should be worth at least 500,000, maybe 1,000,000 or two. But the money wasn't important. The main thing was that it would help him rise to the top. Incubation began. Artifact name, Stone Fruit of 9 Keys, unfinished. He belongs to the High Magic Life class, Quasi-Demigod, level 999, limit reached, race value 59. Skills include Earth Elemental, allowing you to master all Earth-based abilities with plus 50% success rate. Artifact features, Reversal, can change shape at will. Life Change, connects with the target's life essence, can be upgraded to the Beginning of Life class. The artifact contains a power that has yet to be fully unleashed, and anyone who advances one step further will behold an indescribable horror. Pirotus stood in front of the rocks, assuring the goddess that he would quickly carry out her instructions and bring the jellyfish and the dagger. He ordered Iceberg to send 500 soldiers to the ambush, and he called 3 more assistants to follow him. The girl behind the stone obeyed. Meanwhile, clarifying the details of the use of the items, the old man asked for 1,000 gold for an explanation. Tanhua tried to pull Qingqiao back, but his efforts were in vain. Qingqiao's strength was 14, while Tanhua's was only 3, so any attempts to resist were useless. Qingqiao demanded another 1,000 gold from Tanhua, threatening to tell the girl that he had touched her hand. Tanhua exclaimed, indignant and angry, but 1,000 gold coins were debited from his account. The old man explained that this was a class change scroll, an important item for the Wanderer. He explained that the Wanderer is a hermit who helps God and travels the world in the name of God. Divine power is hidden in artifacts, legendary skills, and super level. By replacing the divine power with the power of another god, it will be possible to change the class. After these words, the old man disappeared. A voice was heard underwater. He returned. The old man on the huge tentacle reported that the request of the Ash King had been fulfilled, and hoped that the boy would quickly cope with the controls. Qingxiao and Tanhuo were shocked. Tanhuo pointed out that it would be better to spend the money on a skill like turning into sand and disappearing. Qingxiao realized that it wasn't that simple, but if he mastered the skill and understood the game, he might be able to understand its mechanism. We decided to first sort out our own affairs and improve our equipment. The merchant indicated that there were 80 pieces of normal equipment, 7 good quality items, and some monster materials, worth about 11,000 gold. In front of the girl stood Tanhuo and Qingxiao with a bag full of gold coins. Qingxiao was surprised by the amount of money, and Tanhuo was holding a low-ranking magical pet egg with a maximum level of 600, suitable for starting the game. The pet dropped from the queen ant. Despite its relatively low level, its value was noticeable. Previously, Xiao had a level 1,000 dragon. There were few creatures like it. The pet had reproductive ability. Once he had chosen a location, he could mine metal, gather plants, search for resources on his own, and create a training ground. Tanhua explained that normal pet groups had a maximum rank of 400, but this one had a maximum rank of 600, which was probably a mutation. At least 1,000,000, according to Tanhua. The pet is capable of breeding, and when a group is formed, gold will be divided equally between the participants. Qingxiao was amazed by the price and the number of possibilities of the pet, while Tanhua remained unperturbed, showing leadership qualities. Qingxiao took the egg, explaining that he simply loved ants. He had raised the strongest ants in biology class in elementary school. He believed that if he were to receive a magical pet, it would definitely be an ant. Tanhuo was surprised and recognized the egg as Qingqiao's pet. Qingqiao noted that in addition to the egg and dagger, there are also quest rewards that were originally intended for Perseus. Despite Tanhuo's reminder of the $1 million price, Qingqiao was adamant that if Perseus wanted the egg back, he would have to pay twice as much. Qingqiao left Tanhuo and the green-haired girl to level up and left with the egg. And Tanhuo watched him, admiring his leadership qualities and ability to cheerfully cope with difficulties. The girl woke up after being separated from Qingqiao and was surprised to realize that she was back in Qinshi village, even though she had just been at the ant hill. Zhou thought about the possibility of equipping equipment and becoming stronger thanks to the class. As for the Wanderer, he would still have time to learn more about it. A message appeared about receiving the Order of the Divine Knight. This rare item gives a bonus to combat power of 70% and increases melee damage by 30%. Among the skills there is Divine Knight's Decree, which when equipped increases all attributes of the Knight class by 10. And Divine Choice, which allows you to apply character attributes to a mount while riding. After equipping the Divine Knight order, the Knight's skills automatically increase to the Divine Knight level. A message about the riding skill has appeared. The character now has a mount. Divine Riding increases movement speed by 30%. Cavalry Strike knocks back targets in front of you if their strength is lower than yours. God Strike knocks back targets 3 meters and stuns them for 3 seconds. Mounted jumps are increased 3 times, and Divine Moments allows teleportation up to 10 meters. Spirit of Chivalry provides resistance to control effects. Spirit of God makes you immune to them. You can also use monsters as mounts and forcefully turn living creatures and low-level undead into your mounts. Qingxiao summoned a war horse, but instead of the expected power, he found himself with a dead horse, for which he had to pay 200 gold. He climbed onto it and used the symbiosis skill, combining his attributes with the horse's. The characteristics were divided. Intelligence was reset to 0. Health was distributed between 3 and 1. Strength, 7 and 2. Agility, 0 and 3. Stamina, 0 and 4. Charisma, 0 and 0. The attributes of the jellyfish have been temporarily transferred to the horse, although this race only has a value of 10 points. Qingxiao noted that the horse's attributes were more balanced and ordinary. Qingxiao activated the skill Divine Choice to combine the attributes of the jellyfish with the horse's and double the horse's stats. As a result, the new attributes were distributed as follows: Intelligence 0, Strength 4, Stamina 8, Charisma 0, Dexterity 6, Health 2. Qingxiao added the skill Divine Knight's Decree and the 7-star combo, which increased the jellyfish's power. Attributes became Intelligence 0, Strength 14, Stamina 8, Charisma 0, Dexterity 6, Health 2. Next, the effect of Divine Decree was applied, which increases all attributes by 10%. If you take into account the full effect of the combo and additional bonuses, the final value of combat power or total attributes increases to 36. Xiao decided to deal with Perseus, and then go to the blinding sun. It is necessary to return his body. Qingqiao rode his horse and rode up to the Chengxi warrior village. There were armed players standing in front of him. They instantly surrounded him, shouting at him to get off his horse, threatening to lower his level to 0 and take the Queen Ant's spoils. Qingqiao noticed that they were people from Perseus' gang and offered to take him to the owner. Standing nearby was a man who had previously lost money because of Qingqiao and blamed him for the failure of the siege of the city. The atmosphere was tense, preparing for a clash between the players and the 7 stars. Qingqiao encountered the enemy, although he came with pure intentions, hoping to talk to Perseus. The enemy explained that their master had received the favor of the Earth Goddess and would soon become a divine wanderer, a significant figure in the game. He emphasized that Qingqiao was a primitive race with a value of only 10 points and had no right to interfere. Qingqiao was dissatisfied with the opponent's pressure, who added that there were more of them today and he had nowhere to retreat. At the same time, the enemy raised the question of Pirosius's consent, hinting at serious consequences for Qingqiao. Qingqiao asked how many people were against him. The boy responded with mockery, suspecting fear. Qingqiao explained that he needed to know the number of opponents in order to immediately assess their strength and decide how many of them would need to be neutralized. A stone ball with multicolored pebbles announced a discovery. A baby monkey, possessing an essence close to that of demigods, is easily intimidated. He moved forward, and behind him followed Piroses, riding on a huge flying bird monster, together with the girl. On the rocky ground at the foot of the cliffs lay a fire monkey. Pirosius approached it along with the other players. He wondered why they were getting to their destination by a roundabout route. The guide explained that this was a demigod, and until he had achieved perfection, it was dangerous to go straight ahead. The orangutan was lying in a pose that mimicked the pose of the earth goddess. At that moment, a jellyfish suddenly appeared on the screen, attracting the attention of everyone present. Pirosius decided to catch Medusa first. He activated the stone by using the skill Inversion to make it turn into him. Iceberg remained where she was, following his orders. Pirosius intended for Medusa to finally realize the situation and for no one to dare block the way. At this time, Knight Lantiao noticed something flashing past and was surprised. He was level 26, was able to equip a level 200 blue sword, and was confident that he could handle a level 50 boss. The skill, Grand Master of Weapons, allowed him to master any type of weapon right away from the start, which gave him confidence while sitting in the tree. A message appeared about the skill Grand Master of Weapons. It was legendary. All attributes and weapon skills reached the maximum level, allowing you to ignore any restrictions and fully master any type of weapon. The knight wondered how such an artifact sword could be stolen so easily, deciding that he needed to contact technical support. At this time, a girl with a knight approached him. She turned out to be Xiaoman and offered to test what he was capable of, along with her 3 bodyguards. Lang Tian agreed, grabbed the flaming sun sword, and charged at the knights, instantly displaying his power. Qingxi village, there was a showdown, and Xiaoman suggested going to watch the fight with the jellyfish, to which Lang Tian agreed, remembering the past. In the village, the horse ridden by Qingxiao attacked the crowd, activating the skill God Strike. The boy gave orders, directing powerful warriors with shields forward. Qingxiao then used Divine Instant, instantly teleporting to the rear, causing people to scream. A message appeared on the screen indicating that the Blade of Sunset, an exclusive artifact, had been successfully equipped, created specifically for him, which can be renamed and its appearance can be changed. Qingqiao renamed the Sunset Blade to 7 Stars Blade and activated the Divine Riding skill. He rode his horse, smiling, slashing at the people as they approached. The crowd screamed, trying to stop him, causing panic among the warriors and priests. Suddenly, a strange animal monster appeared at the entrance, on which sat a warrior with a scythe, warning against unnecessary intimidation of ordinary players. The screen displayed his characteristics: rating 9, ID Cold Knife, level 19, race Demon, race value 35, class Dark Knight. Qingqiao swung his blade, riding his horse closer to the monster. He activated God Strike, and the monster flew away from the blow. Qingqiao watched the scene carefully. The man with the scythe jumped back onto the pole. The monster screamed in pain. Qingqiao realized that he was a master at using skills and physical abilities, combining them in a way that would minimize the impact of blows. He first hooked the chain onto a column to avoid being stunned, then put the weapon back in his inventory and immediately equipped it again, cutting down on unnecessary movements. After a pause during the skill's cooldown, he launched an instant counterattack, demonstrating a high level of control and preparation. Qingqiao restrained himself as he watched Cold Steel's skill. Qingxiao himself flew off with it. The man said to remember what killed him. 9th in the top, Dark Knight, Dragon, Cold Knife. The crowd reacted instantly. Archers and hunters aimed at him. Mages and monks cast spells. Sorcerers and wizards prepared to control him. Priests and wood elves were recuperating, and divine light mages were ready for resurrection. Qing Qiao, flying in the air, thought about the lost egg and the million gold that he would not get. He understood that time was short, and he would have to act quickly to raise money for treatment and continue his plans. His life was hanging by a thread, but he felt the excitement and challenge that this situation provided. King Shao touched the egg with his tentacle, activating divine requirement symbiosis and divine riding. A tick emerged from the egg, arms gradually emerged, and soon a girl was formed. Qing Qiao merged with the queen ant, causing shock to the surrounding people. Attaching himself to her head, he landed on the ground, stood in front of the crowd, and felt complete control over the situation. A guy from the crowd tried to use the legendary skill from the beginning of the game, Entangling Beam. In response, Qing Xiao used Reflect, and the shards flew straight into the crowd. An unknown substance entangled the guy. Relying on this skill, the queen ant died 10 hours later than expected. Qing Xiao rushed forward with his sword, striking out, and the entire crowd was shocked by his ruthless strength. The Fire Ant Queen was a mutant, the leader of her colony, and a member of the Advanced Magical Life class. Her rank was 600, life value was 30, level was 17. Symbiosis. Intelligence. 1. Strength. 2. Durability. 4. Charisma. 5. Agility. 10. Health. 8. A message about skills from Panwu's blood has appeared. When Reflect Strike is activated, the character cannot move, but reflects all skills that have damage lower than his attack power. At the same time, there is resistance to fire, immunity to 50% fire damage, and when receiving fire damage, there is a chance to learn a new skill. The character has resistance to poison and immunity to 50% of poison damage. And when poisoned, there is a chance to learn a new skill. When activating the Soldier Ant form, the attributes of the Nimble Combat form are applied, which disappear after activating the Queen Ant form. When the Queen Ant form is activated, the intelligence parameters change, the Queen Ant skill panel opens, and it is noticeable that something strange has entered her body. The Medusa class is described through the gradation of life classes in the Ancient Gods system. First level, normal life, primitive life, the lowest form. Life value, 1 to 10 points. Examples: plants, cordy, seps, fish, and other basic creatures. Level 2, magical life, a more advanced life form with magical potential. Life value, 11 to 30 points. Examples: humans, goblins, lower elves, orcs. Third level, advanced magic life, the highest magical form, possessing significant power and potential. Life value, 31 to 60 points. Level 4, demigods. Life value, 61 to 100 points. Examples: servants of the gods, heirs of the gods, head temples, mid-level priests. Level 5, deity. Life value, 101 to 200 points. Examples are not given for safety. Level 6, supreme deity. Life value, absolute. This includes entities of the highest order, whose power and status are unattainable for ordinary beings. Panic reigned in the square. Screams were heard. Qing Qiao went on the attack, cutting people in half. Cold Steel charged at him with a bloody scythe, but Qing Qiao jumped back, leaving his opponent in confusion. A huge spiral appeared in the air. Screams echoed around, and a guy in the crowd tried to hold the line and raise the warriors forward. Suddenly, the guy was grabbed by the face with his feet. Despite his confusion, Xiao chopped off the attacker's head with his feet and jumped back. Cold Steel appeared from behind with a scythe, tried to strike, but missed. Qing Qiao dodged. The conversation turned into a verbal confrontation. Cold Steel complained that he had missed the chance to cut him down with his scythe. He called him a fish. But Zhao clarified. In fact, he is not a fish, but an ant, correcting his opponent and adding irony to the fight. Qingxiao suddenly separated from the queen ant's body, believing that this body was unsuitable for his beloved close combat. He directed his tentacles towards the girl lying on the floor, but Cold Steel approached with his scythe, activating God Strike. At this moment, the queen ant suddenly attacked Cold Steel, acting as a mount under Qingxiao's divine demand, protecting its master. Qingxiao activated the skill Gluttony, absorbing the experience, and the message of reaching level 18 appeared on the screen. A message appeared about the possibility of using the skill Shadow Clone, which allows you to create a controllable clone with 10% of the main body's health. Qingxiao's skills and attributes. The skill Gluttony was retained and activated at level 1.2. The Shadow Clone used Qingxiao's power, allowing him to switch between the two sides of the image and act with half of his concentration. Sitting on the head of the queen ant, Qingxiao watched as Cold Steel approached, swinging his staff, but the blow was blocked by the sword. Shouts were heard from behind. The knight was giving orders to the priests to cast buffs, to the sorcerers to cast curses, encouraging them to go on the attack. The shaman next to him was surprised, reminding them that Xiaoling had recently died, and Qingqiao peeked out from under the knight's helmet, surprising everyone present. The shaman recognized him and cried out, and Qingqiao, noticing the great sorceress of the wild lands, thought that the choice of the battle priest was correct. As he moved forward, he struck at her and realized how useful the skills of so many people were to him. A message appeared about absorbing the Gluttony skill. It can be saved and used. Growth has been activated. Qingxiao gained the ability to use the skill Dance of Primal Wars, sacrificing 80% of his own health to increase the agility, strength, and tenacity of the target by 100%. A crowd of people attacked him with spells, shouting, "Beat him!" Lightning strikes rained down. Qingxiao felt pain, but continued to use his skills. She separated from the burning body and used symbiosis with the queen. Cold Steel realized with irritation that it was unfair for him to fight against such skills. Xiao used the Dance of Primitive Wars. If he dies, it will only be from his coolness. Cold Steel considered his skills dishonest. Qingqiao walked up to Cold Steel and gave him a clear warning. The 9th place in the top should not be lost. It would be better to return to the city. He counted 3 seconds, holding the scroll with the command, "Return to the city," in his hands. Cold Steel reached out, took the scroll, and instantly disappeared. Qingqiao smiled, but there was still a crowd in front of him. He charged, and the people began to retreat, screaming in pain. Meanwhile, Cold Steel watched from the cliff, Xiao controlling 2 avatars and performing multiple actions at the same time. Among hundreds of players with different skills, he accurately selected the right 2, masterfully combining abilities. Even in a fair fight, without an ambush, it was impossible to defeat him. He counterattacked every blow, confidently dodged and parried attacks, turning a seemingly simple race into a true martial arts enigma. Steel Knife realized that he had virtually no chance against such an opponent. He would kill faster than you could strike from ambush. He admitted in his mind that if Qingqiao was considered a monster, then everything would become clear. Yet, deep down, he wondered, what would Qingqiao be like in the real world? The same. A message appeared about receiving the achievement, "Evade 100 attacks in a row and finish off the enemy." As a reward, the legendary skill Clear Meteor was unlocked, which when used ignores enemy attacks and doubles the power of the next attack. The skill can be used once per battle. At the same time, the player reached level 20, 21, 22, and 23, which was accompanied by corresponding notifications. Pyrosius appeared on a huge mammoth next to Qingxiao and announced that the Earth Goddess wished to see him, so he should go with her. Qingxiao, finally meeting Pyros, noted that at first he wanted to talk alone, but now it was impossible. Lantian appeared from behind with Idol and demanded that he return the blade, drop all skills, and kneeled down, before he allowed the game to continue in the safe zone. The idol supported his words, and Qingxiao was surprised by the presence of a girl who decided to mistake Zhang Lingyao for him. Qingxiao thought that Perosius was no worse than him, and Zhang Lingyao was the real troublemaker. Qingxiao took the moment to speak his final words, declaring that from today onwards, he was invincible, and no one can pretend to him or take anything away from him. Lan Tiao warned that once Qingxiao was finished, he would finish him. Ignoring the threat, Qingxiao pushed off the ground, shouted, "Stay away from my dear Xiaoman!" Qingxiao shouted and struck out. Xiaoman was lying on the sofa staring at her phone when a woman's voice came into the room, noticing her unusual posture and complaints about her eyes getting tired. The woman reproached him that because of the games on his phone, Xiaoman could neither sit nor stand normally. The girl, without losing her composure, replied that celebrities are people too, and hinted that stars were created for a comfortable life. The woman, noticing the wings that had grown behind the girl's back, ironically reminded her that she was now even cooler, and that, apparently, it was no longer necessary to listen to her mother. Xiaoman nodded, promising that she understood, and headed to her room to continue studying. The girl entered the room, lay down on the chair and put her feet on the table, turned on the computer. She noticed the time and thought that at 8 o'clock he should have finished his part-time job. Notifications about friends flashed on the screen. 7 Stars was online 7 days ago, 16th of July. Friends 7 Stars are also offline. At 23:56, someone quietly switched to another game. Every time he changed the game, he warned her in advance, and now it upset her. Hugging the pillow, she thought that perhaps she had become a burden to him and was getting in the way. Shouting in frustration that he was just an ordinary gamer, she threw the toy at the wall and realized that she was angry at not being able to play without him. A sharp cry from the mother came from behind the door. She felt that her daughter was risking her health by sitting at the computer so late. The girl calmly replied that she was training. After all, she was a student at the dance department. Lying on the bed, she thought about why she needed to be an idol, what awaited her in the future, and how her talent and image would be assessed. Her thoughts were a mixture of memories and the admiration of the audience. The guys in the audience admired her purity, charm, legs, singing and dancing. What gave them a sense of life? The girl emphasized that she is not a lesbian, but her body is ideal. Xiaoman wondered if she could continue to shine in the virtual world, if her mind, soul, and spirit would be appreciated. Inwardly, she insisted to herself, "They must! She is so wonderful, so radiant." Memories came flooding back to her when she first entered the game. A frog breathed fire at her, and she died instantly. A guy was sitting nearby, calmly snacking, and he praised her. "Well done. After her actions, it's nice to eat." The girl, all on fire, was surprised, and the guy noted that he had never met such a greenie. Chao advised her to hide, watch carefully, and remember what was happening. In the battle, Chen struck at a huge lion-like monster, cutting off his limbs, which struck idle. Night fell on the game world. The moon was shining in the sky. The girl introduced herself as Qi Xiaoman, but Xiao wasn't even surprised. Despite the strangeness of the situation, Chen Xiao explained that games help him escape reality and forget about his problems. In them, he can become free for a while and remain himself. The idol was amazed. Only in the virtual world could she feel the freedom of her soul, find a sense of real lightness and liberation, remaining herself next to him. It was morning. Xiaofu was sent to check all the games in the stores and find a player with the nickname 7 Stars. Obeying the command, the man reported to Miss Xiaoman that all the accounts he played on had been deleted. This upset the girl. A voice was heard in the passage. "Enough suffering and despondency. The company can no longer tolerate this situation." She accused him of being the one who forced the player to leave. Xiaoman noted that it was not even worth trying to control her. The voice warned her that even though she had reached the top, without the support of the company, she was nothing. the man emphasized that a person like him did not deserve attention. However, Xiaoman begged, if this player was found, sign him a training contract and make him an esports star. The man was surprised and indignant. Why should he become the esports star? He believed that technology was now so advanced that anyone could change their appearance in the game, fly in the sky, or crawl underground. And it is unclear why exactly this player deserves special attention. The man warned Xiaoman to play moderately, not to let the guy's temperament control her actions and spoil herself. Xiaoman mentally promised that she would definitely find Qingxiao, not believing that he could just leave her. She knew he was still there, protecting her and anyone who tried to harm her, fighting with his sword. Xiaoman was aware of his dependence, as if a knight could not live without his princess. Xiaoman was immediately afraid that he might harm her. Xiaoman realized the strategy. Her role was a diversionary tactic. While she was calling for help, the enemies would focus on protecting her, allowing Qingxiao to attack safely. She shouted, "Help!" to attract the attention of the enemies. Xiaoman noted with a smile that Qingxiao took absolutely everything into account, but he could not hide from her eyes. Qingxiao, in turn, thought that her laughter was unnecessary, but he understood the meaning of the maneuver. If she returned to the resurrection point, he would be able to fight calmly. Lan Tiao stood in front of him with the flaming sun sword, blocking his path, and Qingxiao noted that he was now immune to fire. After receiving fire damage, he activated the skill Fiery Walk, which allowed you to continuously increase your speed by 10% and leave a trail of fire behind you for 300 seconds. Qingxiao knew that he was still unable to defeat Lan Qiao on his super account, but this only fueled his excitement. His goal was clear: to finish off his enemy and get his body back. He activated Clear Meteor, and Lan Qiao shouted threats in response, calling out the number of attacks that had been reflected. Qingxiao immediately used Fire Combo, and the clash of two forces began a fierce battle. Xiaoman watched what was happening, realizing that Perosi was keeping to himself and not interfering. The girl understood. He was definitely up to something. She was torn between watching the duel and trying to keep track of Qingxiao, who was sneaking around the ruins of the destroyed houses. He used his tentacles to connect with the dead, demonstrating the jellyfish skill. This was his true purpose from the beginning. Qingxiao was behind Perosius, who was sitting on a giant mammoth, carefully watching the unfolding battle. Xiaoman rushed towards Pyros, waving her arms and shouting that she was being attacked and that she was in danger. She demanded immediate help, hoping that someone would intervene and protect her. At this time, Lan Tiao, being in the epicenter of the fight, loudly declared that he was covering the girl and that he was about to finish the fight with the enemy. The Queen Ant, acting in alliance with Qingxiao, suddenly launched a precise strike at Lan Tiao's legs, tripping him up. Qingxiao, watching the battle, realized his situation in time. He shouted, "You are too stupid to be his enemy." This move was cleverly calculated. Xiu used the 7-star skill and struck. Lan Tiao fell to the ground, feeling a sudden fall, and half of his health disappeared in an instant. Xiao realized how destructive the blow was, and had a premonition that there would be more than one fight ahead of them in which they would have to settle scores with the enemy. Qingxiao thought that the enemy was too tough and could not be killed with one blow. Deciding to change his strategy, he glanced around the battlefield, considering new options. Xiaoman, seeing the danger, turned to Perosi for help, not wanting to die. Perosius, a little irritated by women's troubles, gave her his magical pet, the spirit of the element of earth. He automatically created shields that could repel attacks from all sides. With such a protector, the girl felt safe. Xiaoman noted that Perosius was a true tamer of magical pets, and his pet was rank 500, making him a powerful support. She also noticed that Qingxiao was especially fond of rich enemies, which obviously fueled her excitement. Meanwhile, Laon Tian shouted that he intended to kill Qingxiao even in reality, and warned him not to give a reason to find out his true identity. Qingxiao, smiling slightly, calmed him down. asked him not to be angry. In fact, he was a mercenary. Perosius gave him 10,000 to eliminate him, so he will definitely take the second place in the top. He suggested Lyonya, "I'm making a deal. If he gives him 20,000, Qing Qiao will join and help kill the enemy." Lion Tian was angry, but Qing Qiao, smiling, asked him what the answer would be. Qing Qiao watched Lan Tiao, waiting for his answer. In his head, he mentally urged his opponent. "Come on, Zhang Lingyao, give him your paw, like an obedient dog. One day, he too will be on his knees and begging him." Lan Chao shouted furiously, trying to break through to him. "He's dreaming. He'll cut everyone down." Qing Qiao's legs, but Qing Qiao managed to block it with his sword, interrupting the attack. In response, Qing Qiao deftly kicked, sending Lan Chao flying back, rolling on the ground. Without wasting a second, Qing Qiao walked closer, swinging his sword. He mentally assessed his equipment. Level 200. Excellent quality. The effect of a great weapon master: if he equips it, he will not get the same attributes. Qing Xiao slowly approached Lan Qiao, who was kneeling on the ground. A message appeared on the screen about a serious injury and a decrease in movement speed. Lan Tiao was annoyed. After a couple of hits, the system imposed a serious effect on him, which seemed unfair to him, and he decided to disconnect and delete the account. Xiao swung his two swords. Lan Tiao bowed his head, preparing to counterattack. But Qing Xiao moved calmly and confidently, showing that killing Lan Qiao would be too simple an action. Qing Xiao used the enhancements he received to ensure that the task was completed, causing his strength to exceed Lan Qiao's expectations. Despite Lan Qiao's high level and skill, Qing Xiao was in complete control of the situation, demonstrating superiority. Killing him would be too easy. "He's like a clown. That's what he needs," Qing Xiao said. He decided to tell him something. Pyros helped him strengthen himself so that he would definitely complete the task. "That's why he is so strong now," Qing Xiao said. "After all, Lan Tiao is strong. He has a high level. How could he defeat him, right?" Qing Xiao asked. Lan Tiao realized that he was indeed second in the top, and that Pirosi, by completing the quest, The Path to Becoming a God, had probably received the blessing of the goddess. He thought that he himself should return to this task and complete it. Qing Qiao, parasitizing on the Ant Queen's body, initiated a system confirmation using the lie detector function. He noted that the Queen's body originally belonged to Pirosius, and emphasized that his goal was to discuss with Pirosius the return of the Ant Queen, while Pirosius intended to deliver him to the goddess of Earth. Pirosius watched the process closely, and Qing Qiao pointed to the confirmation message. The verification process was suspended. Qing Qiao noted that he was able to control the mammoth from a close distance, since he had ridden it before. Using the tentacles of the jellyfish that had attached themselves to the animal's tail, he began to control it. A message appeared that Perosia was attacked by a player from 7 stars. The mammoth moved forward with a battle stomp, causing dust and dirt to appear around, while Qing Qiao watched the events closely. The jellyfish, touching Xiaoman with her tentacles, tried to control the situation, but she noticed that the jellyfish's game ID was not hidden, which confirmed Xiao's presence in the game. Pirosi was surprised and outraged by the unexpected attack. Qing Qiao confirmed his words through a lie detector, and the system noted that he was telling the truth. Lan Tiao was dumbfounded, realizing that he had been deceived, while Qing Qiao kept a calm smile. He thought about how difficult it was to level up in the early stages of the game, and it is even more difficult to catch up with those who have already broken ahead, especially when the enemy has so many hidden techniques and intentions. Afterwards, Qing Qiao proposed to Lan Qiao to join forces for 50,000, showing a pragmatic approach. First convince of the benefits, and then act in a unified manner. Perosius moved forward on his mammoth, making his way through the ruins of the destroyed buildings. Lan Tiao and Qin Xiao stood in front, ready to confront. Xiaoman approached Perosi, trying to remain unnoticed, carefully observing the situation and thinking about her actions. Qing Xiao and Xiaoman exchanged brief exchanges. She offered to add her as a friend. He refused, She insisted. He refused again. Xiu suggested a tactic: create the appearance of a fierce battle, while moving during attacks and waiting until the pet is close to the enemy. Lan Chao, impatient and decisive, insisted on acting immediately without wasting time on talk. Together they rushed into battle, coordinating their actions. Qingxiao rushed forward, Lan Tiao followed behind. Every step was calculated, every blow and movement carefully synchronized, creating the illusion of a chaotic yet carefully planned attack. Cheng Xiao turned to Lan Chao, carefully assessing his movement. Suddenly, he stopped abruptly and launched a lightning-fast strike, hitting Lan Tiao's neck straight. The situation seemed almost unreal. Cheng Xiao remained completely calm and in control, aware of the power of his account and the opportunities it provided. Chao's neck began to slowly heal. Glowing threads of regeneration appeared. He had lost more than half of his blood, but he already felt recovered, and he noted with irritation that he had been seriously injured. Qingxiao thought about the Lantiao race, the Zen Mu Guardian, who had the ability to quickly regenerate, probably legendary. Lantiao swung his sword, demanding an equal fight, but missed. Qingxiao watched his actions, noting that despite Lantiao's wood element, he was learning fire skills, which surprised him. Qingqiao realized that direct combat was too dangerous. The damage inflicted would be fatal, so he decided to rely more on maneuvers and evasions. Chao's jumps and movements were impressive, as if he was doing acrobatics in real life. Lan Tiao knew that despite his injury, he was invincible, and only today would the two of them meet in this battle. Hiroshi moved forward on the mammoth, restraining himself, but he understood that intervention was inevitable. He activated his power, the summoning of the mountain spirit totem, and his hand turned to stone. Behind him, a huge pillar with faces appeared, radiating power. The name appeared on the screen: Totem of Mountain Spirits. Totem Life Class: High Magic Life. Level 800. Race Value 45. Rank 23. Skills 4. The totem belongs to the divine class of Earth Elephant and is capable of manipulating 4 types of magic. Enlisting the support of Earth Elemental creatures. Mastery of Earth Elemental magic. Ability to use gravity magic. Ability to summon spirits. The description was displayed as a lot of crackling and rumbling, emphasizing the massiveness and destructive power of the totem. Hyoxian watched from the rooftop, analyzing the situation. The distance allowed him to attack directly, but the activated power of the totem made him wary. Pyrosius used the ability Gravity of the Earth, and a message appeared. Within a radius of 10 meters around the totem, double the force of gravity is in effect. Hyoxian was surprised by the strength of the effect, realizing that it would be extremely difficult to fight in such conditions. Lan Tiao looked at him with obvious malice, showing confidence that lowering the body's center of gravity could weaken the influence of gravity. But in a gravitational field, the enemy still remains dangerous. The eyes on the pillar lit up, and the rockfall ability was activated. It automatically detects and blocks surrounding enemies, continuously attacking with earth elements, making the area around the totem extremely dangerous. Hyoxian realized that a direct confrontation with Lan Chao and the totem without a strategy was impossible. Lan Tiao launched an offensive, hoping to use a large-scale attack to block the opponents. Qingxiao, watching from the roof, saw this as an opportune moment to maneuver around Xiao Man. Xiao Man, seeing the threat, asked if the jellyfish needed help, but the jellyfish pointed out that they were strangers and there was no need to interfere. Lang Xiao activated his weapon, the incarnation of the fire god, the blazing sun sword. But Pyrosius smiled calmly and defended himself with a square stone shield. Lang Xiao's sword crashed into the shield, cracking from the force of the blow. But Pyrosius remained safe, causing him to become enraged. Qin Xiao appeared behind Pyrosius, swinging his sword, but Pyrosius was able to put up a stone hand in time, blocking the attack. Pyrosius demonstrated that his mastery of magic made him a dangerous opponent. and his blow with his stone hand was so powerful that anyone who underestimated him would be doomed to a brutal death. Lan Qiao, ignoring the threat, tried to strike the mammoth. Medusa intervened, deactivating the symbiosis. He used parasitism, touching the pillar with his tentacle, surprising Qin Mao and changing the balance of power on the battlefield. The jellyfish left the protective dome and fell to the ground, rolling along it. Parasitism was successfully activated. The mammoth was hit on the head and was cut. Tentacles were reaching out to him. Medusa remained on the pole, watching what was happening. At this point, the test of will in the process of symbiosis began. Pirocius smiled, his eyes glowing red. He activated Goddess's protection, increasing his mental resistance by 500% and gaining a chance to reflect spiritual magic. Medusa stood on a rock, with fragments flying around her, and her gaze dropped downwards. There was a gaping abyss, increasing the danger of what was happening. In front of Medusa, a gigantic figure rose straight out of the stone, the outlines of which gradually took shape into the image of a majestic goddess. Her face was carved out of rock, but there was a soft, almost living sparkle in her eyes. Her voice echoed like a rumble in the depths of the earth, deep, but at the same time, gentle. She leaned toward Medusa, as if examining the tiny creature before her, and spoke. The goddess greeted him, calling him Little One, and solemnly announced his arrival in the world of the gods. Medusa used symbiosis on a non-living creature. The goddess said that he could not see what was behind him. Medusa turned around. It was the first time he had been in such a situation and decided to use symbiosis on the goddess. She extended her hand to him. He jumped, covering his head with his hands. The inscription on his head lit up. A blue glow went out. Qingxiao heard a voice ordering him to run and saw a giant jellyfish behind him. He rushed away. The goddess was surprised. A huge jellyfish wrapped its tentacles around her hands. It turned out to be the spiritual world. The tentacles pulled the goddess into the abyss, and she screamed as she fell into the depths. Qingxiao canceled the symbiosis and found himself on a pillar on the battlefield. At that moment, Pirocius was half made of stone. The queen of the ants stood on the roof and watched. Lan Tiao swung his sword in defense, and Xiaoman looked at them. Xiao touched the queen ant's body with his tentacle, jumping on his head. Activated the symbiosis. A message appeared stating that the target had successfully blocked the skill, and now a test of will must be passed in the spirit world. The symbiosis skill was originally created to penetrate the spiritual world of the target. A mark similar to the one on Qingxiao's head, but slightly different, appeared on the Spider Queen's body. Qingxiao realized that as long as parasitism was in effect in the spiritual world, symbiosis would be in effect in the game. He jumped on the target's head. Piroci's body did not allow him to run away, and reminded him of the fourth ability of the mountain spirit totem, summoning spirits. Qingxiao remembered about the shadow clone. At that moment, Pirocios was struck by the mammoth controlled by Medusa, and fell to the ground. His hand clenched, and stones began to fly off his body. Qingxiao approached Xiaoman, saying that he was taking her with him. He grabbed the girl, threw her over his shoulder, and ran. A shadow wrapped in tentacles and with glowing eyes appeared in the fog. Qingxiao was overcome with fear. Qingxiao rushed with all his might, holding Xiaoman and the clone on himself. He activated Divine Instant, but realized it wasn't enough. The speed was too slow. His horse had already been killed, and there was no other horse. The symbiosis skill only had one free slot, and Xiaoman did not receive any bonuses from it. Even if there were bonuses to agility and stamina, they would be too little. He took out the ingot, intending to use the return to the city, but the system gave a message that it was impossible in combat mode. At that moment, a giant stone hand stretched forward. The goddess gradually freed herself from the tentacles of the huge jellyfish and was already crawling through the city. She slammed her hand on the ground, causing huge rock formations to emerge from the ground. Xiaoman saw this and screamed. Qingxiao turned around, then jumped forward, but a sharp rock rose up right in front of him. He tried to jump over it. Xiaoman felt happy and recalled the past. She said words about flying and how she once crossed the Great Canyon of Kalisa with the 7 stars. Then she screamed. They started to fall down. Qiao Xian asked what she said, while trying to stop on the rock. He thought he couldn't stand what was happening any longer. Behind him, the goddess moved, and on the pillar stood Perozios. He realized that the appearance of the great Medusa was connected to his race, and assumed that he had accidentally triggered a secret quest. Lan Chao was shocked by everything that was happening. He noted that Medusa seemed to have a low strength rating. If she continued to hold back the great stone, she could be seriously hurt. Meanwhile, the goddess was furiously struggling against the tentacles. He decided that he should help and perhaps get good rewards for it. He ordered himself to think and look for a plan, to use all hidden and obvious clues to achieve victory. The process of symbiosis, the test of will, began. He used symbiosis, activated the test, and entered the spiritual world of the mountain spirit totem. He understood that the great Medusa was able to follow him into the spiritual world, and every time during symbiosis, it penetrated with him. 2 of his skills clearly came from her. Parasitism required a test of life force, symbiosis, a test of spirit. He noted that parasitism had already failed several times for him, while symbiosis had never failed. He hadn't even encountered a test of will yet. This all looked like a deliberate trick, not a game bug. Qin Xiao thought he had an idea. He made a call to the arrogant nuggets. Manhua responded by asking what was going on, and mentioned rumors of commotion in the village, that the continental plates had shifted. Qin Xiao waved it off, saying that he had simply attracted the attention of the gods, and told him to ask the archer how she was feeling after the symbiosis. Tanhua replied that she was offline. Qin Xiao wondered if the only way to check was to do it directly. If it didn't work, then the big Medusa would be in trouble. But Tanhua added that the archer said she didn't remember anything and thought her watch was just out of order. Qin Xiao interrupted the conversation by kicking the dialogue box and decided to deal with it later. The conclusion became obvious to him. If the symbiosis was deactivated, his clone would corrupt the divine requirement and turn into a riding animal, and the main body was unclear. Then, the turning point came. Qin Xiao approached the celebrity, asking to borrow his body, and wrapped his tentacles around her. The process of symbiosis began. Qingxiao came to the conclusion that he could use symbiosis to create a spiritual bridge between himself and the target. He held that thought and turned to himself. The great Medusa must wait. Xiaoman blushed and tried to resist, but the tentacles wrapped around her body. Qingxiao explained that she was in the spirit world and warned that the giant jellyfish was coming. Tentacles from the water appeared in front of Xiaoman. The giant jellyfish noted his primitive understanding of the born skills, and she stated that the spiritual space belonged exclusively to their race, so Xiaoman would not be able to follow them. Qingxiao realized that in the game, it was possible to open a quest chain by helping NPCs, but right now, the level is not high enough to activate the symbiosis. The attempt to connect with the spiritual world failed, and a message appeared about the failure of symbiosis. Qingxiao and Xiaoman returned to the battlefield. Xiaoman had a showdown with Qingxiao. Another Medusa, sitting on the head of the Spider Queen, watched the goddess, which suddenly disappeared into thin air. Xiao tried to carry Xiaoman away from the battlefield, but the situation remained dangerous. The girl resisted, struggled, and screamed, not understanding why she was being carried again like a sack of flour. Perseus and Laotian ran across the rooftops in pursuit. Perseus experienced a loss of control over his body. Realizing that the god's summoning skill allowed others to take control of his body, Perseus realized that he had unexpectedly received a premium quest and assessed the situation. Perseus understood the importance of the quest, the path to becoming a god, which included 5 consecutive tasks with valuable rewards. Maximum level of mastery of the earth element, a magical pet, a rank 800 mountain spirit totem, and dual specialization as a warrior master of the earth element. The quest required capturing and bringing a jellyfish to the earth goddess. The rewards included level 100, an artifact, the earth staff, and the specialization Earth Wanderer. Separate from the stone fruit quest, the rewards in this quest were significantly higher than the previous ones. Pyrosius noted that Lantiao had exceptionally good resources from the very beginning of the game. At that time, Laontian pursued him, reminding him that the matter was not yet finished. Laontian swung his sword but missed, hitting the ground. He had full mastery of all types of weapons, including melee sword throwing. Pyrosius was watching him. He was interfering with the quest. Laontian tried to punish Pyrosius for ordering him to be killed, but he retorted, realizing that Laontian had been used and was not aware of all the circumstances. Pyrosius reflected on the theft of the artifact blade and the fact that from the start of the game, all divine-level items are bound to accounts, assuming that either one stole the other's account or vice versa. He didn't know how it happened, considering Xiao was playing as a jellyfish and not a human. It didn't matter anyway. He promised that if Laontian found Qingqiao in reality, he would be able to help complete the task and receive a reward. After these words, Pyrosius flew away on his monster bird, and Laontian remained watching him, lost in thought. Laontian took off his helmet and was met with complete clarity. He realized that Qiqing was actually Medusa, and the whole intricate game of masks and symbioses received its explanation. Laontian left the room and headed to the hall where his father and the invited guest were. The man noted his stateliness, and his father introduced the guest as Uncle Lin. The conversation touched on Laontian's future education, but he did not go into details and indicated that he had things to do. Uncle and father exchanged remarks about the need to learn life and dignity. Laontian, without losing his resolve, gave orders to bring all his people to him, noting that some were tired of living. In the forest, Xiaoxin jumped from branch to branch, holding Xiaoman in his arms. Xiao noticed that Laontian was giving himself away in another way. He realized that she knew this beforehand, and yet she was still with him. Xiaoxian felt the strain of moving her. He found it tiring because the strength indicators on this body are low. The girl realized that she was a burden to him, but he continued to move, holding her. At one point, he threw her into the bushes to cushion her fall. At first, Xiaoman was frightened and exclaimed, surprised that he would do such a thing. But she quickly realized that it was done on purpose so that she wouldn't get hurt. She felt cared for, smiled, and thought about his constant attention to her. The thought of his thoughtful care made her feel both irritated and tender. She called him that damn tsundere, realizing that he was constantly thinking about her. Qingqiao noticed that he had exited battle mode and could now use Return to City at any time. He assessed his capabilities. Silently eliminate enemies. Find a mythical pet. The Queen Ant. Get legendary skills. Successfully escaping from a strong boss and earning in-game currency at the same time. All this brought him pleasure from the game. He decided to switch off, withdraw the money he had earned, and return it to his mother. After taking off his helmet, he found himself in a room where Tanhuo suddenly appeared, peeking out from under the bed. Qingqiao was startled when he saw him, but Tanhuo immediately realized that he had returned. During the game, the crowd shouted for Tanhu to beat him because he was the assistant of the 7-star player. Tanhuo pointed out that Qingqiao could change his nickname so that his previous enemies would not find him. Qingqiao said that when he was a child, he dreamed of 9 stars, joining together one after another, after which his star exploded and he appeared. Tanhuo believed him, despite the unusualness of the story. Qingqiao asked why Arrogant Nuggets had not changed his nickname, and Tanhuo was confused. Qingqiao laughed and said it didn't matter. He would help with the problematic players. Now they would be afraid to connect again. Qingqiao decided to return to his search for information about the Earth Goddess. He planned to study her ability to oppress and control the large jellyfish. He knew he would figure it out sooner or later and foresaw that the game would be a hit. Tanhua assured that even the goddess's foot size would be revealed. Qingqiao knew that there were many difficulties ahead, but this seemed like a test from heaven to him. He felt that everything would be fine despite the obstacles. Lan Chao and his men kicked the door open and rushed into the apartment. Qin Xiao turned around in surprise. Lan Chao walked in. One of the guys walked up to Tanhua and hit him. Lan Chao grabbed Qin Xiao by the scruff of the neck and pushed him into the wall. Qin Xiao remained in the corner, watching the events. The fighters approached him, and he felt terrified. Lan Tian walked up to Qin Xiao, who was sitting on the floor, and assessed his playing skills. Qin Xiao realized that Lan Tian knew his true identity, and he reminded him of the 7 stars. He was thinking about blades and artifacts that remain bound to an account, so that's how he found out. Lan Tian ordered his fighters to beat Qin Xiao, while smiling and saying that no one dared to mock him. The boys screamed and kicked Qin Xiao, and Tanhua tried to hold them back and called for help, desperately resisting. Qin Xiao held the helmet in his hands, knowing that it was the only hope to fix the situation. Thoughts about his family were running through his head. His dad, mom, sister, and the queen ant, whose value he hadn't yet calculated, and about the money in the account, which he did not withdraw, but which could bring more and more profit. He felt that as long as the helmet was intact, there was a chance to regain control of the situation and protect everything that was important to him. Qing Xiao lay battered on the floor among the broken furniture and equipment, clutching his helmet in his hands and pondering his fate. Lan Tian recalled his words, how Perseus helped him strengthen himself so that the task could be completed, and now he had a strength that he did not have before. Lan Tian leaned towards him, mocking his weakness and trying to take away his helmet, while promising a quiet retreat. Suddenly, Qing Xiao jumped up from the floor and hit Lan Tian, recalling old grievances. How his father was deceived, the house was confiscated, and he himself was too small and powerless. The memory of his sister, who was still recovering, strengthened his resolve. He realized that he no longer wanted to be a coward, a loser, or a scumbag. Qing Xiao began to strangle Lan Tian, refusing to accept humiliation and doubt, determined to protect himself and his interests. Lan Tian screamed for help, feeling pain and fear. Chao Xian acted resolutely defending himself. He wouldn't let anyone hurt him or take his things. The boys tried to pull him away, screaming for help, but he was furious, like he was about to explode, fierce and fearless. He latched onto Lan Yuan, trying to inflict maximum damage while ignoring his opponent's attempts to interfere. In the chaos, one of the boys stabbed him in the back. The others recoiled, shocked by what was happening. Lan Yuan started to rise. One of his teeth fell to the floor. Tanhua shouted and rushed to his friend, trying to help him. Blood flowed from Chao Xian's body, but he held on, pointing to the helmet that remained intact. The boys were confused. The knife might have hit their heart, and they were trying to figure out what to do next. The old man wanted to help Chao Xian and complete the class change of the 7 stars player, help him pass the key stage, become the Ash Wanderer. Tianhua looked at his friend anxiously, fearing for his life, while a mixture of horror, tension, and determination reigned around him. It was a sunny morning in the game. The Spider Queen was standing in the forest, with a jellyfish on her head. Kyoxian was shocked. He realized that he had returned to the game and became a ghost inside it. The system window did not appear. The inventory opened by itself. A bony hand fell out of it, which Qingxiao recognized it as a strange object from the queen ant's nest. A hand grabbed his wrist, and a roll of paper appeared from his inventory and began to wrap around him. Qingxiao was surprised. He thought he would have enough time to study the conditions for changing classes, but he unexpectedly accidentally fulfilled them. The old man thought about this irony of fate, realizing that the choice made by fate leads to the right path. The giant Medusa pointed out that events were moving too fast. The plan of the soul and flesh was being revealed prematurely. The gods had already turned their attention to Qingxiao. The old man added that this would not be a problem. Everything would reveal itself. A huge jellyfish jumped out of the water, demonstrating strength and control over the situation. Brother Qingxiao saw Tanhua trying to help him. The surrounding area was covered in blood. Suddenly a glow appeared, surrounding them in a circle. The circle of energy cut through the entire house and was visible from afar. A jellyfish wrapped in tentacles descended through it, straight into their room. Qingxiao realized that his soul had left his body due to the injury, but now his soul had been incarnated into the jellyfish from the game. He tried to get his body back, grabbing it with his tentacles, preparing for battle, but he heard a voice. The soul was too weak to return and would soon dissipate. Qingxiao realized that it was the voice of a large jellyfish and wondered if the game had become reality. Qingxiao realized that gaming skills could be useful. He activated symbiosis, touched his body, and began to return to it. The hand moved. Tentacles were visible behind the back. Tanhua was shocked. Qingxiao felt life in his body and turned to Tanhua, showing that something strange was growing on the back of his head. But everyone froze. The bandits tried to escape. Medusa's voice explained, "It was the power of time." Medusa appeared over the city. She was visible from the window. She said to complete the class change and change fate, after which the world will submit to him. The old man confirmed that the most difficult conditions of death on the ashes are already completed. Qingxiao moved on to the next stage. To change class, you need to replace the divine power with the power of another god. He remembered the conditions. The first is to receive an unknown bone hand. The second is to receive a class change scroll from the old man. The third is to die in the ashes. And the fourth is to replace the divine power. Qingxiao realized that this was a huge hole, but since the game and reality were intertwined, nothing could stop him. He activated the divine power, intending to replace it, and opened the skill list to view his legendary abilities. Sheniman has grown from a one-man project into a tight-knit team that developed ancient gods. In recent years, there have been rumors that the UN, together with its 5 largest member countries, the World Bank, the Continental Financial Union, and a number of other international organizations will participate in the development of gods, receiving the right to control the development of the game in proportion to their contribution. Despite the skepticism of many, Jamie was confident in the veracity of this information. He has been studying Chinese for 12 years, has been working at Sheniman for 3 years, and has been involved in the game's development since the very beginning. Jamie, as a designer involved in the research and development of the gods, suddenly interrupted his thoughts. Someone behind him made a comment about his early arrival. Jamie noted that there was a meeting in the afternoon. His colleagues reminded him that his annual vacation had ended and asked about his plans for the weekend, suggesting that he go to the Chuitsi camp. The man asked whether he was going to carry out the plan that was discussed the previous night. Jamie said it would require approval from the head, and he would contact management for approval. The man was confused, and Jamie continued his thoughts. He made sure that all the settings and data created over 3 years were intact. Real ancient gods don't require a network connection. Tens of thousands of employees came to every home. The mind control system fully synchronizes brain waves, providing realistic simulation of scenes without bugs and with detailed rendering of the smallest details. This causes gods and NPCs to be suddenly generated without any design information, creating uncertainty and chaos within the system. Jamie noted that this is far from the kind of product that employees would openly create, and no one knows exactly what's going on inside. In China, there are several suitable chenyus, stealing beams and replacing them with logs, or exchanging a cat for a newborn prince. The dictionary of Chinese chenyus included such tricks. The genius of the production team hidden behind the scenes, or the supercomputer leading the world to new technologies. He wanted to reveal this secret. Jamie found himself in a special spacesuit with a helmet that completely covered his body, inside a huge company building. Reaching high into the clouds and down into the ground at 6,915 meters. He tried to comprehend the sudden movement and the strange equipment, marveling at his suit and helmet, feeling the heaviness and strangeness of what was happening. People nearby explained that the elevator would take them 10 kilometers underground, warning them of mortal danger if it broke down. Down below were the servers, where Jamie had to go to study and clear up any doubts he had about what was going on. At that moment, for the first time in 3 years, the voice of the head of the company was heard, explaining the details of the situation. One of the attendants held a shovel that might be needed for work in these extreme conditions at such a great depth, which further increased the feeling of strangeness and danger. Jamie tried to figure out how all the elements, the suit, the equipment, and the depth of the earth were connected to the task and what awaited him next. Jamie remembered that he had been trying to uncover all the secrets for a long time and was now close to his goal, while at the same time feeling a slight sadness for this place. His thoughts were distracted by familiar everyday details. At home, Chinese restaurants served small baijiu, steamed buns, for breakfast. But suddenly, his attention was drawn to something eerie. There was a lava surface in front of him, and on it lay a huge human body, connected to wires leading to the head. Half of the skull was missing, exposing the brain, and a special iron mask was placed on the head, creating the feeling of a strange technological experiment. Jamie felt a sense of surprise and bewilderment as he thought that this was a giant, perhaps a sculpture of the game's giant race. He tried to understand the scale of the project and wondered if other god-level races would be realized. His attention shifted to the company's operations, wondering if Shen Meng was creating some kind of gaming showroom. One of the men in suits explained that this was the central processor of the gods. The other men explained that Shen Meng is the dream of God, the ancient gods, and their development is related to the dream realm. Jamie watched the reactions of the people. One of them was amazed that an ancient creature was imprisoned here, and a game was created from his dreams. Another was joking with the boss with interest. The newbies with the shovel continued to arrive, and 3 more employees appeared quickly carrying strange balls with a pattern. Jamie was amazed at the scale of what was happening and the organization of the process, but the men assured him that they would deal with them quickly, despite the number of people. Jamie examined the spheres closely, holding one of the balls in his hand, and realized that they were synthetic metals, hollow inside, possibly overheated mechanisms. He realized that geothermal energy was being used as a primary source of energy. Cheap, almost unlimited, and always available. This energy powers the entire gaming system and keeps it cool in extreme conditions. Jamie noticed that countless numbers of these mechanisms functioned in turn, ensuring the production of gods at the highest level. He realized the technological significance of processors. They open a new era of technology and can be tested inside the game. Jamie realized that if these processors were used for military purposes, the consequences could be catastrophic. Jamie watched the situation with interest and realized that he was dealing with people who guarded technological secrets with particular care. Despite strict safety precautions and a thick protective suit, he tried to feel for the switch to examine the equipment, but was unable to do so. The guys nearby watched his every move warily, fearing that he might accidentally wake up the big guy. One of the guards pointed out that Jamie was not very smart and did not understand the importance of the technology in front of him, and forbade him from touching the equipment. Jamie knew his actions were alarming and was aware of how closely these technological secrets were guarded. As he began to remove his glove to better interact with the mechanism, the guard instantly grabbed his hand, preventing him from continuing. Jamie found himself 10 kilometers underground, where the air temperature reached 300 degrees Celsius. He knew that if he took off his protective suit, he would instantly burn up. The sudden speed of the guy accompanying him surprised Jamie. It seemed like he had teleported. He was aware of the scale of the depth. 10,000 meters seemed like a huge distance. He didn't believe it. For the sake of impression, he could have said 20,000. The guy stopped researching and suggested moving on to the main secret. Jamie watched the lava and the huge sculpture lying in it with interest. He was told that it belonged to the Karase of the Giant from the main storyline of the first chapter of the game, the sleeping leader of the giants, the head of the Kwafu clan, which has been dormant for 1,000 years. Jamie realized that he had previously accepted the final draft of this game and was now watching it come to life. Jamie was confused. The boy explained that the giant lying in the lava was supposed to be a child, who took responsibility for the fate of the entire race in the past era, despite his enormous size. Jamie couldn't understand how such a large body could belong to a child and insistently demanded the truth. At this moment, in the room where Qingxiao was lying beaten on the floor next to Hua, tentacles began to come out from his body, and he woke up. A corresponding image appeared on the screen of one of the workers. The boss has appeared, and now it is necessary to take precautions. Jamie was surprised by what was happening, and the guy said that this was a new child who must take on the fate of the era. Jamie was in a panic and didn't understand what was happening. The earthquake had shaken the cave and all the structures were in danger of collapsing. He grabbed his head, but tried to calm himself, reminding himself that it was just a demonstration. Soon he noticed some guys nearby who were lifting metal balls. A multitude of balls began to pour out of the giant body, falling directly on Jamie. The workers picked them up with shovels and put them in buckets. Every time the divine power overflowed, many of these black balls would appear, which they called shit clearing. Although they were actually power balls, Jamie was surprised when one of the balls hovered in the air and the leader grabbed it with his hands. The ball glowed green and turned into a gaming helmet of the gods, possessing divine power. This is how the first 10,000 helmets with super accounts were created. The head, explaining the process to Jamie, complained about his hand being tired after work. Jamie could hardly believe what was happening. He realized that players who purchased a helmet with divine power received better rewards already at the beginning of the game. And this is pre-programmed, firmly connected with divine power. The number that fell on the dice reflected the amount of divine energy, which was confirmed by the words of the guy in the helmet. Jamie wanted to see the technology chips and the manufacturing team, demanding disclosure of all valuable information as the chief designer. But the guy explained that some of the information was not intended for him, but for what was on his back. Jamie had a chip on his back, which meant he was being tracked and transmitting information. And the guy suggested that, despite Jamie's blonde appearance, he might be a spy from the Kingdom of the Four Islands. The Prime Minister and his advisors in the Four Island Kingdom watched the events unfold. The boy pointed a finger at Jamie with magical power, and Jamie rose into the air, levitating. He realized that those in the game would become dragons soaring in the clouds, and those outside the game would find themselves in a different, dangerous reality. The guy carried Jamie over the boiling lava, and Jamie experienced shock. The fall was inevitable. The body turned to ash. Everyone in his corporation was shocked. Special Agent Jamie, codenamed 312, was the victim, having sent a recording before his death. All advisors and leaders were informed of the incident, and an emergency meeting was called. Voices underground confirmed the alarm. The old man stood behind Qingxiao in Changhua's room and watched him as he looked at the dialogue window. The divine power was different, each belonging to a different god. Most of the gods remained unknown. It was difficult to distinguish which of them embodied good and which evil, and it was unclear whether it was worth keeping them alive. Qingxiao's decision on choosing the skills to transform the divine power. Qingxiao clarified the possibility of transferring each type of divine power to the corresponding change of wanderer class. The old man explained that the Ash King belonged to a group of gods who were friendly to humans, so the conditions for changing class were simple and clear. Qingxiao reminded himself that he had to die to fulfill these conditions and began the process. He chose the skills: Blade, 7 stars, Brave Heart, Divine Instant, Sunset Blade, Divine Knight's Order, leaving all the rare purple ones. He decided to keep Parasitism and Symbiosis and transform the rest. There were reports about the state of the skills. Symbiosis allowed, if the test of the target's will failed, to parasitize and take control of the target. The skill absorbed by Gluttony could be saved and used once or twice. The growth of Gluttony was activated. Qingxiao received the title of Miracle Worker, which allowed him to change the probability of a particular event once every 24 days. He began to change classes and suddenly found himself in a new place. on a huge round board surrounded by space and planets. Qingqiao found himself in space, among huge planets, on a massive flying structure. A stone slab, shaped like a clock, caught his attention. Around it lay glowing paper. His divine power of transformation was manifested. Suddenly, there was a huge flash, followed by an explosion, and Qingqiao felt a wave of energy coming from the source of the light. He fell onto the flying structure, but hung in the air just in front of it, watching as the planets lined up. One of them, resembling ash, was gradually approaching. A divine disk of creation of the world with 24 divisions, reflecting the divine principles in the universe, appeared before Qingqiao. The old man explained that life, when it first comes into contact with divine power, feels these divisions. He asked if Qingqiao had seen the continent of ash, hinting at further understanding of the power and structure of the universe. Qingqiao realized that the world was more complex than it seemed. There were 12 divine principles in front of him and 12 behind him, a total of 24. But the ashen continent approached and crushed him with its power. The feeling of death was real. The old man explained that the ashes were the final resting place, the alien core of the universe, where even the gods found peace. The divine nature of ash carries the power of death, and this information is confirmed by an ancient stone statue on the bottom of the sea, in the crevice of which a large jellyfish managed to hide. Qingqiao realized that the game's plot was closely intertwined with the background of the ancient gods, carefully thought out by the scriptwriter, without any gaps. He asked about the 23 gods, besides the ashes, realizing that each part of the divine system had its own unique purpose and power. Qingqiao realized the greatness of this era. If the god standing in the 23rd place does not resurrect, then the knowledge of the past will sink into oblivion. Each deity had a unique power that was beyond the control of the others, but the 23rd god stood out. He was called the Personality. Qingqiao was surprised, realizing that before him was not just power, but something capable of radically changing the perception of the divine system itself and the course of events. Qingqiao noted with irritation that the title Personality sounded trivial. He wondered if the persona's powers were similar to ashes, but the old man explained that the persona had not yet manifested, so such information was unknown. Qingqiao felt disappointed. The divine disk of world creation only displayed 2 sections, and many divine powers were still in the process of emergence and remained hidden. The old man added that every deity has an opposite, and the opposite of the personality is a mysterious being called the hidden in the shadows. Shadows began to slowly appear in the room, as if materializing out of thin air. The old man explained that ash is able to open a bridge between the game and reality, allowing one to return from the dead, and the power of hidden in the shadows can use the same path. In order for the owner of the body to return to consciousness, it is necessary to fight these shadows and destroy them. The old man wanted to see Ash's true strength, but Qingqiao decided to put the question aside for now because his hands were already demanding action. Qingqiao stood in the center of the room, surrounded by all sorts of shadows that seemed alive, almost like real people. The old man reminded them that they had not yet developed patience and needed to be careful. The static nature of time had been disrupted. In order to awaken these entities, they must be completely destroyed. Qingqiao inquired about their abilities and goals, and the old man explained, their powers correspond to their nature, and their goal is to prevent the emergence of the personality. These shadows, simple and crude as classic small bosses, obey the dark side of the last deity. The signs on the divine disk of the creation of the world foretell that at the end of the era, the 12 deities will jointly personify completion and will possess a power equal to deification. The goal of the hidden in shadow is to gather the remaining gods and destroy them, representing the dark opposite of the last deity. Qingqiao stood there, aware of the anxiety of fate, relying on the spirit of the seer, the skill of the gods who created, and the man chosen by fate. He dealt a crushing blow to the shadow, but it dodged and immediately went on the attack. Qing Xiao deftly dodged the blows, demonstrating precision and reaction speed, which stunned the old man. He wondered how they managed to avoid the attacks, since the Shadow's abilities corresponded to their nature. Qing Xiao thought that the attributes of the hidden in the shadows were at least 2 to 3 times stronger, but the two arms that grasped him were familiar. He knew this method of attack well. In order to win, Qing Xiao realized that he had to instinctively memorize his attacks, dodging 10,000 times and attacking 10,000 times. This, in his opinion, was the path to victory. Qing Xiao charged forward, continuously striking. One of the shadows began to take the form of a human, and the old man instantly understood. The boy considered what was happening to be a game. Qing Xiao himself was at a loss. He was not sure whether he had killed the enemy, but the old man reassured him. Hidden in the shadows took the entire blow. At this moment, 3 shadows appeared behind Qing Xiao, checking whether he had mastered the power of personality. The old man watched and thought about the reaction of the gods, while simultaneously prompting to maintain balance. Qing Xiao must fall correctly, using his entire body, like a gecko using all 4 limbs. His movements were cat-like, animal-like, fluid, and flexible, combining a wild imagination with precision. All the skills he had seen before had transformed into instincts. Qing Xiao showed amazing reflexes, acting instantly and naturally, hardly thinking about every move during the fight. Qing Xiao realized that each of the 12 deities controlled 12 faces, and each face revealed a unique type of divine power. Among these powers were the hourglass, granted by time, giant jellyfish, and the fruit of wishes, which he obtained through his own aspirations. Just one of the variations of power inherent to a particular deity. The personality, as the crown of creation, must also possess all 12 abilities. The first of them is the ability to learn from nature, following Taoist principles, living in harmony with all that exists, learning, imitating, and absorbing the laws of the universe. This is not just a technique, but a fundamental path that shapes the perception of the world and the ability to improve. Qing Xiao felt an invisible danger approaching once again. Fate, as if it had been closely watching the beginning of all things, turned its gaze towards him. Until now, it remained unknown what kind of divine nature the Ash King belonged to and how powerful his power was. But the choice of the higher powers fell on the boy. The old man thought about how many deities were still waiting in the shadows and what trials they had to go through. Qing Xiao, noticing the scattered shadows, realized that there was no peace among the gods. However, a new, gigantic shadow appeared behind him. He felt her presence with his whole body, and the name rang out, Zhang Lingyao. It was time to act as representatives of this era, boldly facing the challenges that fate brings. The old man explained that the ancient technique was to gather all the darkness into the body of one person, increasing his strength. He doubted that Qing Xiao could handle this and was ready to intervene, but Medusa's voice insisted on letting things develop on their own. The old man wanted to see the limits of Qing Xiao's capabilities, but he also understood that he had not yet used the power of Ash. On the contrary, Medusa believed that it was better to let Qing Xiao fully vent the grievances hidden in his heart, and the little man in front of him was the perfect target. The old man was confused because Medusa reminded him of the possibility of using the hourglass to turn back time if things went wrong. The old man realized that fate was favoring Qing Xiao, giving the jellyfish 3 chances to control time. People who are under the gaze of fate often encounter misfortunes. Their minds may be fettered and blinded by darkness, and they lose their footing. The question arose, would Qing Xiao be able to stand firmly on his feet again, having coped with all this darkness and trials of fate? The old man realized that Xiao had intentionally cut off the enemy from his source of power, and was surprised by his determination. He urged Qing Xiao to use the power of Ash to defeat the giant, but Qing Xiao only stalled for time by observing the situation. He then activated the helmet and entered the game world completely, falling right onto the Spider Queen. For a moment he felt like a small jellyfish, but immediately activated the symbiosis, connecting with the essence of the game. After this, Qingxiao gained access to his class's skills, Ash Disciple. The system confirmed his achievements by revealing new abilities: Ash Space, Ash Power, Ash Invasion, Ash Substitution, and Ash Call. He found himself at the peak of his powers, ready to use the power of Ash to combat the giant and the shadows that threatened his path. Qingxiao was delighted. The class's basic skills were much more powerful than he expected. The abilities he chose to transform returned to him and became stronger. A new message about the Ash Space appeared on the screen. He now had the right to enter the Ash Lands, limited by his level of divine power. With further development of the skill, you can activate the Ash Space anywhere. The range is currently 10 times 10 times 10 meters, but it can be increased as you level up. Within this space, there was a right of control that allowed the objects and beings within to be controlled. Even in the Ash Desert, created by the Ash Invasion, this control was maintained, giving Qingxiao enormous tactical opportunities in the coming battles. Qingxiao concentrated and opened the Ash Space, realizing that it had become a kind of bridge between the game and reality. As long as the space was active, he could use the game body in the real world. The feeling of power was the same as in the game, but the further he went, the less his body resembled an ordinary person. It was a strange feeling of transformation. Suddenly, Shadow threw a chair at him. Qingxiao quickly jumped back, and the object crashed into the wall. He felt almost superhuman. Lianshan, astonished by Qingxiao's impudence, attacked him, but was kicked right in the nose, causing him to clutch his face and scream. Qingxiao realized that his agile queen ant body helped him dodge and deliver precise strikes, allowing him to control the fight on the border between the game and reality. Qingxiao stood there, realizing that no matter Lianshan's strength or what was hidden within, he was still the same Zhang Lingyao. He demanded that his things be returned and, restraining his anger, added that he was ready to spare him. The atmosphere around him was thickening. Tension hung in the air, and the feeling of control and confidence came from Qingxiao. Lin Tiao stood confidently, using his Ash skills. He understood that Lin Tiao, although strong, acted as one with the shadows, and his abilities are now many times greater than those of an ordinary person. As Ling Tiao swung his fist, Xiao attacked back with a smile, directing the power of Ash and Ash Invasion onto his huge hand. Ling Tiao winced from the blow, realizing that he had met an opponent far more powerful than he had expected. A system message has appeared explaining the effect of Ash Power. It adds Ash Power to Qianxiao's attack, dealing damage to the target's spirit and leaving a mark of sorrow. Creatures marked with this mark can transform into Ash creatures, and the speed of transformation depends on the number of marks. Low-ranking creatures cannot resist the orders of higher-ranking creatures. Qianqiao screamed and went on the attack, stabbing Lanqiao in the back and demanding his things back. Lanqiao, smiling, declared that his attacks would soon be useless. Qianqiao grabbed Lanqiao's hair and repeated the question, but Lanqiao's eyes flashed red. A magical black power emanated from him, and he increased in size. Qianqiao was taken aback, but Medusa intervened, entering the building, destroying the wall and attacking, using the purple hourglass against the shadow. Suddenly, a bright flash occurred, surprising Qianqiao. The old man said that fate had not sent a seer, but Qianqiao stubbornly stood his ground, like a donkey, not appreciating what was given to him. He was ready to burn all his strength in order to return time, and the old man asked if he wanted to use the remaining 2 chances of the hourglass. Even though his powers come from a goddess who is in deep sleep, his existence remains significant. The old man ordered to let the spirit leave the body for himself. At that moment, a huge jellyfish sign appeared, shining with a bright light. The old man told him to continue living, and before him appeared a huge figure of an illuminated woman with a Medusa symbol on her stomach, which the old man watched closely. In the dungeon and under the building, one of the men took off his helmet, feeling tired from the endless routine. He thought that if time went back to normal, he would have to kill Jamie again, even though he was a good guy. Pictures from the game changed one after another, showing a new era of games. On the day of release, 10,000 gaming helmets were sold out, and each buyer received a super account. Qingqiao opened his eyes and saw himself on the very first day of release. People filled the streets, and he walked among them with boxes, realizing that time had returned to its original state. Qingqiao stood in the square among the crowd, watching people discussing the sold-out helmets. 10,000 have already been sold out, and many have complained about their high price, calling the manufacturers fucking profiteers. He himself held the boxes in his hands and tried to comprehend what was happening. He really came back. The old man's warning came to mind. So that Qingqiao could return to the past, the great Medusa sacrificed itself. The old man saved her soul and sent it to the first Qingqiao helmet. Noting that her resurrection would become his story quest, he must appreciate this opportunity. Return and rise to prominence among the gods, was his instruction. Qingqiao knew that he could now start the game perfectly, but he thought about the helmets. After all, the big Medusa was hidden in one of them, but he didn't remember which one, and if he accidentally sells a helmet with it. This task seemed difficult, but he realized that, considering it as part of the story mission, hints would definitely appear. His key tool, the primary ability to open the space of ash, will be decisive in completing this task. Near Qingqiao, he activated symbiosis and looked around. People were walking with purchases, and glowing balls were visible inside the boxes. Qingqiao realized that divine power allowed him to see these lights. Among the boxes, one glowed especially brightly. It was probably a super account. The others glowed more dimly and seemed less valuable. A voice was heard from behind. The guy asked with displeasure why everything was so slow and whether Qingqiao had decided to quit his job. He walked over, leaned over the boxes, and started to pick them up himself. Qingqiao tried to stop him, shouting, "Drop it!" But the guy ignored the warning and took the boxes, ignoring objections. Qingqiao punched himself in the face and fell to the ground, screaming about robbery and stolen helmets, demanding that the police be called. The crowd reacted with alarm, shouting about a fight and someone else stealing helmets, calling for the police to be called to see what was happening. The guy who took the boxes was indignant, claiming that Qingqiao had slandered him and that he had hit himself. The crowd surrounded Qingqiao, warning him not to try to escape, reminding him that not everyone had managed to buy helmets, but that was no reason to beat people. Some suggested options, reselling them. Qingqiao realized that he had overdone it and tried to hold back the bleeding from his nose. It was evening, and Qingqiao was sitting in his room, pondering the recent events. The day before yesterday, he contacted Belabrisic via an anonymous number so that he could not track him. He wasn't reselling helmets and wasn't labeled as a dealer, so there was no reason to blame himself for what happened. He chuckled, recalling his opponent's past blunders, even being arrested for fighting. Xiao begged the policeman to let him go, saying that he had accidentally fallen. The policeman reassured him, telling him not to worry and that he should not be afraid of revenge. He was charged with fighting and robbing goods worth more than 60,000 yuan. There are witnesses and material evidence. Under these circumstances, he faces 10 years, and Xiao will receive financial compensation for the damage caused. Qingqiao chuckled. That's right. The rival wanted to make money off of him, but he didn't need financial compensation. He was concerned with justice. There is no time to waste. The next step is vital, he thought. He put on his helmet, ready to enter the world of the ancient gods and create a new account. Adventurer Qin Xing appeared in the world of the ancient gods. The game detected his location in the Chinese region, started loading, and he skipped the intro animation, fast-forwarding to the throw. The cube came up with the number 99, which became a congratulation from the game. Soon, Qin Xiaoman should appear in front of him. Qin Xing realized that he had replaced one of the exclusive personal assistant rewards with his soul, even though he hadn't used this function yet. They exchanged introductions. Qin Xin called himself 7 Stars, and the girl said that she had no name and did not need one. Qin Xing noted her divine nature, and realized that it was normal for her to be ignorant of human principles. He came up with the name Xuan Shu for her, and the jellyfish girl agreed. Qin Xing was pleased with his invention and felt divine approval. The wandering girl, the original possessor of the divine power, explained that she had no right to be considered a god. She has advanced only one stage further than the wanderer, since the discoverer of the personality gets the opportunity to become God. Qingxi Xiao apologized for interfering and thanked her for her help, noting that he had received a chance to start over. He needed to make the most of this chance and get on with other things, so the discussion was postponed until later. Qingxiao took off his helmet and exhaled, realizing that the next step was to prevent the crime from occurring so that it never happened. The first thing he did was contact Tanghua. He called and explained the plan. Resell the helmet through the school chat. He will leave a helmet with a reward for opening the server for Tanghua, and the helmet he ordered must be returned. Tanghua was surprised how Qingxiao knew about his order, but Qingxiao quickly cut off the conversation, demanding that he act according to instructions, and hung up. Qingxiao installed a camera opposite the front door to ensure that everything that happened would be recorded well, made sure that the camera was working properly, and hid it in the closet. He then went on to do side missions, contacting 2 new customers and selling 3 helmets for 53,000 yuan. There were still 7,000 left on my mother's card, which was enough for 2 days of play and a trip to the anthill. He left 1 helmet for his sister, 1 for himself. Everything was ready, and Qingxiao waited with a smile for the call to continue the action. Chao appeared at the door. He heard that Qingqiao had an extra gaming helmet and came to pick it up. Qingqiao tried to explain that he needed the helmet to enter university and to earn money in the game, but Lan Qiao didn't listen. When Qingqiao refused, Lan Qiao used physical force, hitting him in the face and declaring that even if he beat him, the Qingxiao family would not be able to harm him. Lan Qiao also recalled his father's influence in an attempt to intimidate Qingqiao. In the second helmet, the name selection part was skipped, and Qin Xiao was immediately in the game. In the form of a jellyfish, he activated the symbiosis and began to control the bird, heading towards the fire ant's nest. Flying right over it, he received an achievement notification. As the first player to leave the starting village on the server, he received the Pioneer Quest and X1 book rewards with an unknown X1 skill, Gold 1000. The rewards remain the same, but the Re-Enter title and the teleportation ring with the resurrection skill have disappeared. Therefore, Qingxiao realized that the divine power that had been imbued into them and chosen for transformation could no longer be obtained. Deciding not to get upset, he headed to the anthill to level up. A notification appeared. He became the first player to discover and enter the final boss dungeon of Qinshi Village, and also activated the quest The Story of One Boy, receiving the item, the boy's dagger. As he flew, Qingxiao memorized the map. The Qinshi Rookie Village was in the center. The fire ant nest was in the east. And to the north and south are other boss dungeons, the coast of Qinshi Village, and a strange stone forest. Zhang Lingyao killed a level 30 demonic ox at the starting station, probably on the coast, and Perosi destroyed 4 bosses in the strange stone forest, completing the mission, God's Decree. Qingxiao felt satisfied that he now knew the location of all the key places. Qingxiao focused on leveling up quickly in the early game. He gained the skill Gluttony, which allowed him to absorb other players' skills to gain experience points. During the development process, he mastered the legendary skill 7-Star Blade, which increased the damage of any attack in a combo by 100%. Gradually, Qingxiao reached the 2nd level, then the 3rd level, and soon the 10th level, becoming the maximum level in the current stage. Accumulated experience points were retained after class change, which made it possible to continue leveling up. Qingxiao realized that mastering legendary skills would take little time, and the first players would soon leave the starting village. The 7 Stars Blade turned out to be a source of divine power. However, Medusa explained that the released energy, like evaporated seawater, only turns into free steam. It loses the properties of the original source. Qingxiao realized that it was impossible to collect all the free steam to turn into a sea and become a god, because steam is just steam. Even if water condenses into streams and rivers, this does not lead to a qualitative change in the amount of divine power. Sublimating and accumulating divine energy in a vessel proved to be an extremely difficult task. Qingxiao fell from the sky to the ground, realizing that he had only touched the edge of one of the 12 abilities of the personality. He understood that in the personality system he had not yet even reached the rank of wanderer, and he needed to choose the right direction of development in order to advance further. Medusa recommended first raising the parasitism skill she passed on to Qingxiao. At this moment, a call came from the arrogant Nuggets, and Qingxiao learned that in just over an hour after the server opened, he was already ranked second. The leader of the rating is a level 15 player, a pervert, who has already changed his rare class, and who was even reported for suspected cheating. The list of top players looked like this. First place, I am the most wonderful man, class Omniscient Apostle, level 15. The second is Qingxiao, 7 stars, the 10th level. The third is Blinding Sun. The fourth is Perosius. The fifth is Lesser Eastern Dragon. Sixth, Husky. Seventh, Swarovski. Eighth, Moon Wanderer. Ninth, Conquering the World with Cats. 10th, Cold Knife. Qingxiao assessed the situation and planned the next steps to accelerate the development and return Medusa to physical form. Nuggets began to complain, calling on the old man to intervene and take his brother away, as leveling up under these conditions was too difficult to fight a straw man. It required 3 or 4 people, and the chance of getting the equipment was extremely low. Qingxiao replied that none of this mattered. Tianhua reported that he had been monitoring Lantiao from a distance. He had already completed the rookie task and was heading to the Qinshi village server. Lantiao realized that with this helmet, he had rolled the number 99 and won top rewards. Only he could feel the power of the account. He opened his mail and received a notification that he had been awarded 5 additional attribute points and 3 pets, including the bloody black dragon's egg, the special artifact blade, the skill Grand Master of Weapons, the class change scroll, and the story quest, The Path to Becoming a God. After looking through the characteristics panel, he saw the status of the character named Blinding Sun, race Guardian Senmu, heir of Xuan Lin, level 10, distributed skill Grand Master of Weapons. Main and subclass not yet chosen, max number of pets is 5. He noted the character's ugly face and short stature. The artifact blade was equipped in the inventory. The dragon egg required special nutrition, blood, crystals, and the dragon spirit, which seemed strange to him. The class change scroll was intended to complete the story quest, The Path to Becoming a God, and allowed one to change their class. Lantiao was surprised by the rewards and realized that the quest scroll could not be used until the corresponding conditions were met. Lantiao began the first task: summon the wishing fruit, make a wish, and receive the corresponding task. He decided to become the strongest faceted player and choose the power of fire. The system counted the desire, assigned a difficulty of G, and issued a requirement: cut down a tree with a diameter of more than 50 centimeters. Using basic sword skills, Lan Quan easily completed the task. As a reward, he received fire elemental abilities, and his sword burst into flames. Qingxiao gained new abilities: fire control, fire blade, and explosive attacks. His body became immune to fire, and his attacks began to deal fire damage. He felt that he was now capable of becoming one of the strongest fire elemental players. At that moment, a huge red-eyed black-furred boar jumped out of the bushes, a level 8 monster, the perfect object for testing new skills. However, Qingxiao noticed that the boar's color did not match the standard, and trying to use the beast-taming skill was impossible. The subclass had not been changed. Screams could be heard in the forest, adding to the tension of the situation. Qingxiao tried to climb on Tianhua's head, thinking about his mistakes and how he could have attacked Lentiao more strongly. He understood that he had spent his wish on gaining fire elemental skills, and that these skills now gave him a significant advantage. Tianhua reminded about the Ash Invasion skill, which allows one to turn monsters into servants and control them. Qingxiao noted that the skill's range was about 200 meters, which was stronger than the standard spy assassin. After this, Qingxiao suggested quitting the game and posting a video on social media to attract attention. Both players were in the same room. Tianhua took off his helmet and proceeded with further actions. Xiao was willing to trust Tianhua and was about to equip the ant soldier blade to continue his search and challenge the opponent to a duel. Qingxiao prepared carefully for the upcoming fight with Zhang Lingyao, determined to get his account back and prove his superiority. He put the heavy weapon away in his inventory, knowing that the extra weight would quickly reduce his stamina. In his mind, he was formulating a plan. Use all his abilities to gain the upper hand, while controlling the situation through the invasion of Ash. He called on Chaika for help, believing her to be an indispensable ally in battle. But she was nowhere to be found. Realizing that the coast of Qinshi village was the place where Zhang Lingyao had headed to kill the level 30 demonic ox, Qingxiao began to advance towards it. As he walked, he noticed that he rarely encountered monsters, which was because he had the boar under control, and the ash intrusion allowed him to minimize collisions. The closer he got to the coast, the more it felt like this was the boss's area. This made him tense up and be extremely attentive so as not to miss any sign of danger. Qingxiao's thoughts kept returning to the strategy of how to use the ash invasion and his subordinate creatures to ensure that Zhang Lingyao didn't have the slightest chance. He thought that the battle would not be easy, but with skill and thoughtful preparation, the chances of victory would increase significantly. Every action and step brought him closer to the final battle, where the fate of his account and the strength of his control over the space of ash would be decided. Qingxiao received a call from Nuggets, who said he was able to post the video by operating covertly through an internet cafe so that his IP could not be traced. After the publication, he immediately received a flood of attention from various media outlets, and he provided them with the address of Zhang Lingyao's house. Qingxiao knew that this action could significantly affect the situation and speed up his plan to get the account back. Tianhua knew that his technique would be able to deal with the threat, but the battle scenario remained difficult. Qingxiao noted that although he could defeat Zhang in the current zone, he was no match for the demonic bull. He activated Ash Control, climbed the tree, and used the Ash Invasion power to assess the situation. In front of him was a wounded bull with a severed leg, and behind him was Lan Tiao watching. The boar tried to run away, but Lantian knew that its speed would not allow it to hide far. Lantian instructed his friend to have his magical pet evolve, otherwise they would lose control of the battle. Lantian looked around and noticed that there were no normal monsters left around. Perhaps they had retreated to a safe zone. The wounded animal he was watching moved forward, and red eyes began to flicker among the trees. A huge monster appeared from the forest, a cold-blooded sea demon bull, level 30, race value 27 points. He had the following skills: powerful ram, iron health, and water elemental control, all common ones. And the high-level skill of the demonic bull's roar turned out to be rare. Xiao noted that the sea demon bull, despite its natural environment, exerted incredible pressure even on land, although its power was still inferior to the queen ant. From a distance, he immediately showed hostility. He was an aggressive boss. He prepared for a powerful ram, and Lantian commanded his boar to stay away. Qingxiao watched through the boar's eyes, thinking of a plan. He decided to change his strategy and came up with a new approach, confident that he could defeat this giant. He then called upon his allies, the Jinyi Wei, to help find the killer and support him in battle. Qingxiao was tense. Nuggets expressed surprise. It had only been 2 hours since the server was launched. He was just thinking about creating the Jin and Wei Brotherhood. Most of the friends didn't have helmets yet, and Qingxiao was already looking for participants. Nuggets explained that one proactive player had contacted him, but the details were vague. Qingxiao insisted on speeding up the preparations because they needed to assemble a team before the boss died. Nuggets said he posted the video and message on the game's forum, after which one interesting player became interested and wrote a private message. The fear of this situation prevented him from responding immediately, and after starting a new game, the chance of contact decreased. Qing Xiao remembered that in the previous game, she had hidden many valuable items, including weapons, cursed talismans, and thousands of heavenly thunders. The thought that it was Luo Xiaoqi made him shudder internally. Qian Xiao received a new letter with a video of Luo Xiaoqi looking straight at the camera. He was surprised by how single-mindedly she showed attention. Nuggets tried to warn her that she could ruin the gameplay, but Qian Xiao took her video as an incentive to deal with the situation. He opened the control panel, trying not to panic, and decided to interact with Luo Xiaoqi directly. Qian Xiao indicated his coordinates and gave instructions to send a challenge to battle with her coordinates, about 500 meters away from Zhanglingyao, not far from the training ground. Nuggets quickly sent a message to ensure everything went according to plan. Nuggets sent a threatening message to Luo Xiaoqi, giving her the exact coordinates to meet her. She was in Qingshu village and would be there in an hour. Nuggets ran up to Qin Xiao, who was sitting on a tree, and warned him about the upcoming no-holds-barred fight. Qin Xiao, jumping on his head, assured him that this time they would be the main force and unite. Nuggets tried to refuse, fearing the consequences, but Qin Xiao insisted, reminding him that there was half an hour left, and it was important to either attack the demonic bull or prepare to meet Luo Xiaoqi. He activated the symbiosis ability, preparing to act. Manhua was completely naked, and Qing Qiao was sitting on his head. Qing Qiao turned around and noticed a huge jellyfish, deciding not to interfere directly. He reminded Manhua to test his skills, clear his mind, and let his body act instinctively. Manhua concentrated and noticed that the soldier ant blade was already equipped, wondering where it came from. Qing Qiao explained that this was the old man's work and continued giving instructions. A wounded boar appeared ahead. Medusa was amazed at how the personality skill worked. Initially, his ability is parasitism, which allows him to control the bodies of other creatures through the suppression of life force. Symbiosis works on a spiritual level, allowing one to control the power of the victims and gain complete control over their bodies. The girl noticed that Qing Qiao had managed to combine his spiritual power with that of another being, using symbiosis, in which the owner of the body retains free will. But she realized that this went beyond the usual symbiosis. It was something more. This coexistence is unique and unattainable even for her. She noted, 7 stars, Master of Boar Management. Qing Qiao has unlocked the legendary coexistence skill. Now, if the symbiosis is successful, the target can retain consciousness and control over the body. He noted that if harmony is achieved with a magical pet, it will not be one body with 2 souls, but rather a coexistence with the preservation of independence. The main thing is to quickly level up, without paying attention to health points. Nugget started the attack. The boar was chasing him. Suddenly, Nugget felt a blow and flew away, but he managed to deliver a powerful blow to the boar's head. A dialogue box appeared on the screen. The 7 stars player offers coexistence. Manhua accepted the offer, but gave up the leading role so that Xiao could take control of his body. In his friend's body, he calmly directed his actions using symbiosis skills and began to attack the boar, cutting it into pieces. Nuggets was surprised to note that despite losing control of his body, everything else continued to work. He could use the skills, write letters, but now he looked at the world as if from the outside, as if in third-person mode. Suddenly he shouted, warning Qing Xiao of danger from behind. Qing Xiao immediately reacted by jumping to the side and dodging. Blue circles began to glow above the body, and Nuggets immediately recognized the familiar effect. It turned out to be the legendary skill, Mana Return. Within the area of effect, 20% of the energy expended was returned to the owner. Manhua called this skill divine, because it was thanks to it that he was able to level up quickly. He joined a group, farmed on straw effigies, tirelessly supporting the attacks, and thus reached level 4. Instant mana regeneration allowed him to fight again and again without stopping. The screen flickered, and Qingxiao saw a recording of Luo Xiaoqi coldly studying her opponent. A blade flashed in her hand, which she casually twirled on her fingers, as if it were a child's toy. She liked this pumping zone. She told her opponent to fight or get lost, not to waste her time. Her voice was icy, cutting harder than a weapon. She was opposed by a player with the nickname Cold Knife. Level 6. Race Demon. Race value 35. Class Not selected. Pet Underground Dragon. Level 5. Race Horned Hampsosaurus. Value 32. Pet skills: Roar, normal. Reduces the mental resistance of the target in the radius. Can cause clouding of the mind. Wild Charge, normal. Tier Victim, advanced. Cold Knife commanded the underground dragon to use Roar. Luo Xiaoqi smiled faintly and disappeared from sight, as if she had dissolved into thin air. The skill used was Roar. The probability of inflicting the state of insanity. Cold Knife used the power of deep cuts, trying to swing, but Luo Xiaoqi appeared behind him. She stepped out of the shadows and put her blade to his throat. The blow was precise and silent. Observers recorded the scene. Luo Xiaoqi's style was to first intimidate and disorient the opponent, and then deliver a single fatal blow. She would seek out players who had reached high ranks, challenge them, and then post footage of the battles on the forum, turning each victory into a public statement. The cold calculation was confirmed by the data. Her level was still only 6th. Her class had not yet been chosen, but the power did not come from the level. The source was in the weapon. The interface displayed the information. Assassin's Heart. A divine artifact that allows the owner to use the full set of skills of the assassin class. This was precisely its advantage. The artifact replaced the class, providing access to all the assassin's skills at once. Qingxiao separated from Tianhui's body and recorded the combat power data. It took about 10 minutes to level up, but there were still tasks ahead that required even more speed. The interface reflected the characteristics. ID 7 stars. Level 10. Race Common. Deep Sea. Decorative Jellyfish. Next, the partner's data was recorded. ID Arrogant Nuggets. Level 4. Race Human. Race Value 30. The conclusion was clear. The Nuggets' numbers remained unremarkable. Qingxiao noted that the hidden class Ash Disciple remained undisplayed in the system. It was the old man's legacy from the trial against the Ant Queen. Luo Xiaoqi is at least level 6. Her race is highly valued and has a value index above 30. Skills include invisibility, splitting, and death blows, as well as the basic moves of a standard assassin. Artifact Dagger increases the potential and likely unlocks hidden class skills. Nuggets was aware of the imbalance. Among the newcomers, she was the only one with such a set of skills and artifact equipment. The idea of changing classes arises as a way out, because it promises bonuses, new skills, and high-quality development. Chen Xiao hesitates, realizing that the attributes will not change, and there is only one opportunity to change classes. The potential switch to Ash Disciple seems too risky, and risks losing benefits. Xiao decides to act cautiously and prepares a plan, trying to maintain the balance of power within the team. Xiao instructs to return to the city and purchase teleportation scrolls with fixed coordinates. At least 10 scrolls are needed for the maneuver. Despite their rarity and high price at the beginning of the game, Nuggets is hesitant. Resources are limited, and such scrolls are considered a luxury for beginners. Chen Xiao insists, offering to exchange valuable items in the system store for gold. Nuggets is surprised. His partner's stock of equipment seems too rich. The loot he received from Chen Xiao, full of hidden power, ends up in his hands. Suddenly, Chen Xiao's blade pierces his body, ending the conversation in an instant. Nugget's health is depleted. Instant death. The system registers the malicious killing of the player and adds 100 points of anger. The anger value decreases by only 1 point for every hour spent online. NPC favorability levels drop sharply, and guards in neutral cities become hostile. The player receives the title of the server's first villain, and unlocks the skill of Awe of Evil Chai. The skill causes mental shock, inflicts fear, and reduces the attributes of enemies by 10%. The next blow of the blade deprives Nugget of his head, and the system again records malicious murder. The anger meter increases, the victim loses levels, and Qingqiao is ready to use the body for his own purposes. Nugget senses injustice and suspects hidden manipulation on the part of his ally. Threat sensing skill activated. The system reports that the location belongs to the boss. The thought arises that the boss's aggression may be provoked by someone else's hands. Lo realizes the plan and prepares to resist, realizing that naive tricks will not work here. Lo ponders. The opponent has lost the strength to duel, which means her actions will become ruthless. Invisibility is activated, and Law's figure disappears, leaving only light traces on the ground. The surface beneath your feet feels strange, as if the earth itself has changed its structure. The system reports a new letter sent by a player with the nickname 7 Stars. Lo feels excited, anticipating the meeting, and opens the system message. The letter displays an address and hints at a past acquaintance with Qingqiao. The text ends with a cryptic challenge. The enemy's location remains a secret. Lo watches the screen and notes that the enemy is hiding behind a magical pet, as if afraid of a direct fight. The girl activates the assassin's skills hidden in the artifact dagger and prepares to identify the target. Doubts arise. The simplicity of the situation suggests a possible trap. The history of the servers against the slaughter of heaven reminds us of the moment when the main weapon for defeating the final boss was introduced. The artifact is capable of dealing triple damage to the Sky Tribe and unlocking many unique skills. Weapon owners get a chance to enter a special space and engage in battle with the boss. The battle in the hidden zone allows you to strengthen the artifact, pumping up its potential. The mystery remains unsolved. No one has ever entered the special space, and the boss himself has not been seen. The topic caused a stir, and suddenly a carrot-headed gnome NPC appeared, selling rare weapons for 10 a day. The prices were high, but players bought up the artifacts despite the uselessness of the game currency. The gnome demanded that money be left in the cave's magical field, after which he would give out a map with coordinates. The weapons were hidden in the ground, water, and even trees, making the search a real challenge for players. During the battle with Heaven, it became clear that the weapon's damage was triple, but still not enough to pass. Lo realized that the cunning 7 Stars was behind this, using the ID card to replace her friend with a gnome NPC. He was the first to open the entrance to a special space and blocked access for other players. Hundreds of monster kills allowed you to upgrade your weapon, increasing its attributes to 2,000 points. The weapons sold to players had a maximum of 500 attribute points, making them weaker than the real thing. The real weapon, soaked in the boss's blood, gave more than 10 attributes, but not a single copy was sold. The maps with coordinates pointed to the Valley of 1,000 Snakes, surrounded by traps, making access almost impossible. Lo assessed the little animal, outwardly harmless, but clearly plotting something. The strategy changes. The killer's path is to hide in the shadows. They will still appear. She will be on a tree and remain unnoticed. The magical pet looks thoughtful and dangerous, so keep your distance. The possibility of an attack is sudden, like a bolt from the blue, but the risk of a curse makes one cautious. The enemy is level 10 and has not yet changed class, which gives a tactical advantage. In the challenge video, Law only uses basic assassin skills to mislead the enemy. Confidence grows. The heart of an assassin and full mastery of skills make victory a reality. The dagger received from the NPC revealed the true path of the killer and strengthened Law many times over. The goal is to patiently avoid Jellyfish Xiao, waiting for him to appear, while continuing to put psychological pressure on the opponent. Qingqiao watches from the side. Luo remains calm and focused, muttering to himself almost motionlessly. Xingxiao contemplates the invasion of ash at the cost of the boar's remains and the creation of an ash desert. In the ash desert, control allows you to sense the presence of anyone above the area, like a detector. The ability also allows you to teleport objects within the created zone, adding a tactical advantage. Divine power is limited, but it is enough to control and observe what is happening. The initiative is taken upon oneself. The Call of Ash is activated, summoning an ash golem. Someone runs briefly from the bushes across the desert, attracting Lo's attention. Lo notices movement and realizes that someone has entered the territory. Lo activates stealth, moving silently with a light tread, almost unnoticed by enemies. A protective wind surrounds her, increasing her speed, reducing her weight, and increasing her defense. Initial level sharpness increases attack power and increases damage effect. Speed in darkness increases movement speed in dark areas, making maneuvers swift. Law's body becomes blurry, allowing him to pass through small obstacles. Primary poison adds a small amount of poison damage to your attack modifier. Shadow Blade amplifies the damage with dark attributes, making one hit fatal. Lo recovers her condition, replenishes her mana, and prepares to attack. She jumps down from the tree. Someone hides in the bushes, where rustling is heard. A huge boar jumps out of the bushes, causing Lo to jump back sharply. Behind us, giant red eyes flicker in the forest, raising the alarm. The herd of boars rushes forward, surrounding Lo from all sides, revealing her position. The enemy's sudden class change to a beast tamer surprises her, and he uses rare summoning scrolls. Lo prepares for battle, drawing his blade and bracing himself for the fight ahead. Lo ponders the types of assassins. Some lurk in the shadows and kill with one blow. Others use traps and spells. The arsenal of guerrilla assassins includes the partisan weapon, which transforms the assassin's heart into a deadly weapon. New skills open up the possibility of poisonous attacks and the use of the Blue Blood Kiss weapon. For agile killers with quick and cunning strikes, there is the artifact Sting of the Dancing Bee. Law has a unique weapon that allows him to switch between different assassin styles at will. The Gram Blade deals a powerful blow, striking down 3 boars at once and spilling blood on the field. The Hunting Trap activates, appearing as a huge iron device that kills 2 boars. By slicing his arm, Law summons Plague Spears that fly into the herd and strike enemies. She stands in front of a slain herd of boars, in complete control of the battlefield. Lo is ready to leave the battlefield, ending her attack and leaving her opponents defeated. The Loe prepares to leave, watching the enemy, when a male figure appears from behind the trees. Having chosen the sword, she notices something unusual. Instead of a head, the man has a boar's head, causing surprise. The Ash Wanderer's final skill, Ash Substitution, allows the creation of a temporary body with control over it. Such a body can exist for 2 minutes, although only 10 seconds are enough for an attack. The boar man attacks quickly, showing aggression and strength. Loa strikes, intending to cut the opponent's pride and show superiority. The blow hurts, but the opponent still pushes Loa, creating a moment of danger. She cuts off the boar man's head, but begins to fall backwards. Hands suddenly emerge from the ground, creating a sense of impending danger. Lo ponders. The enemy has learned the skills of necromancy, while hands from the ground grab her legs. The hands pin her to the ground, but she smiles, remaining confident, and uses Blue Blood Kiss. The power is activated. The body is covered in a green poisonous layer. The hands of slime continue to try to pull her away. She fights back, throwing away her dead arms, and notices that the opponent is playing with summoning skills instead of a direct attack. Lo understands the strategy. The enemy is trying to confuse her, forcing her to make a mistake in her choice of fighting style. 3 more boar men appear around her, combining attacks and forcing her to switch between killer types. She strikes and cuts off the head of a boar man using the Dancing Bee Sting as her main method of attack. Law continues to fight, questioning the number of first-level undead being summoned. Suddenly, One of the boar men attacks, and fourth and third level ash golems appear nearby. The golem's attacks force Lo to defend herself. Her confidence begins to weaken, and fear appears. Lo takes out his ring knife, attacking with maximum speed and precision. Activates the sting of the dancing bee, increasing its attacks and cutting down humanoid boars. The move drains most of Lo's mana, leaving her vulnerable but determined. Summoned creatures slow her movement, creating additional pressure in combat. Suddenly, a shadow appears in front of Lo, a second-level ash golem without a head. She attacks, the knife almost touching the golem, preparing to finish the blow. Suddenly, Nugget's head emerges from the golem, causing shock and confusion. Luo realizes that the enemy's partner is in front of her, and Xiao is absent. Lo strikes. The body with the hole is still on the ground. Nugget's head is lying nearby. Lo is perplexed as he tries to figure out where the 7 stars are and where the enemy is hiding. Nuggets emerges from the bushes, hinting that he has been watching and testing the heroine the whole time. Lo notices the necromancer's skills and ponders their danger, assessing the threat. The conversation continues. Nuggets explains that only 20 minutes have passed since their conversation. A video appears of Chenqiao Lantian fighting a huge monster, showing off his strength and tactics. Lo tries to attack, but Nuggets opens his shirt, revealing strange markings on his body. She retreats. Earlier, Xiao and Nuggets' plan worked. Jin Ling Yao's memories and the branch's fire skills awaken the strategy. Provocation, forces, and attack. Luo notices Chenqiao's eyes, realizing that she was being followed, and thinks about the dark space he has in his stomach. She realizes that a blow to the stomach could kill him, and that summoning the creature and necromancy are a trap. The enemy's goal is to lower her vigilance and force her to make a mistake in battle. Lo realizes that the enemy is using the empty fortress tactic to create an illusion of strength. An ancient strategy deceives enemies by demonstrating power where none exists. Suddenly, a voice appears, causing Lo to pay attention to what is happening around her. A huge glowing eye suddenly appears in front of her, increasing the sense of danger. The jellyfish Qing Xiao emerges from the ground, personifying anger and threat. The aura of evil inflicts mental shock, causes fear, and reduces the target's attributes by 10%. Lo is transported to another location, completely surrounded by an aura effect and a red giant eye. A symbiosis is initiated, deepening Lo's connection with the magical force that is occurring. Symbiosis activated, Qing Xiao attacks Luo with giant tentacles, jumping straight onto her head. In symbiosis, both parties engage in spiritual competition, beginning a struggle for control. Medusa appears from behind, watching the events and assessing Lo's mental strength. She understands that Luo's soul is strong and indestructible, capable of withstanding Qing Xiao's pressure. Qing Xiao talks about Luo's overconfidence and her inability to recognize danger and threat. He explains the effects of artifacts on the mind, highlighting the side effects of ancient magic. Lo realizes that her skills and weapons have been manipulated and she has fallen into a trap. A system message appears, symbiosis successfully established, recording the beginning of a new stage of the battle. Lo appears in her room, removes her helmet, and realizes that she has fallen for the 7 stars trick again. She is angry at herself for trusting the artifacts and decides to regain control of her body. With the helmet on, Lo prepares to regain autonomy and resist the symbiosis. Chengxiao reflects on the consequences of symbiosis. The symbiotic loses control over the body due to the difference in levels. Medusa warns of the risk of Qing Xiao's complete control over Luo's character. Lo resists. In the forest, she stands in the middle of a clearing. The ground under her feet is covered with grass. Nuggets peeks out from behind a tree, inquiring about her condition, when Lo suddenly throws a knife at him. Xiao announces the completion of the previous stage and the transition to the next stage of fun. Nugget appears from behind and they run together, admiring each other's abilities. Xiao warns about the need to use off-game tactics, surprising Nugget, who realizes that lowering his level was also part of Lo's plan. In a tough fight, Luo would not be able to hold out. Nuggets and Qing Qiao ran forward, maintaining a strategic advantage. From the very beginning, Qing Qiao planned his actions so that Luo would not guess his intentions. Nuggets asks about the goal of the strategy, thinking that winning is to knock the opponent's health down to 0. Qing Qiao explains that the goal was psychological, to intimidate Luo, to shake her spirit, using his body not to directly attack, but to increase pressure on Law and control her decisions. Qing Qiao's true nature would not be revealed. He would remain in the dark. Lo planned to become invisible to control the situation, but several wild boars ruined her plan. The magical dagger used to defeat the ash golem, and the boars has been transformed into a partisan weapon. Luo saw the pig's head on the corpse and mistook it for Qing Qiao's body, relaxing after the first riddle. In practice, the battle turned out to be different. Lo faced a squad of 4 bodies, misjudging their strength. Due to the mistake, Lo began to panic, losing control of the situation and making wrong moves. Nugget's appearance was the icing on the cake, completing the build-up to the event and enhancing the effect. Lo was hurt and confused, beginning to suspect that she was being tricked, feeling like a clown. The eye that Qing Qiao had drawn on Manhua activated, increasing the psychological pressure at the moment of attack. She remembered the second clue, the totem space around Qing Qiao, and began to feel afraid. Lo was already afraid of taking rash actions, given the possibility of a repeat attack from the ashen corpse. The real climax was the video of Lang Tian, showing that Qing Qiao had been one step ahead the entire time. Luo tried to outwit him, but Qing Qiao directed the 3 battle groups, adjusting the battle pattern. She naively considered him an ordinary person, which played a strategic role in his plans. Lo wonders where the real 7 stars might be and remembers the video with the boss. She assesses her chances. Without the magic dagger, it would be impossible to survive the onslaught of boars. Qing Xiao ponders over possible attacks. No normal attack would harm her after that. Nuggets complains that his brain is already overloaded, but Qing Xiao insists on an answer. Strategy is discussed. How to counter an assassin if you are just a scout. The main character classes are divided into 5 types: warrior, mage, priest, assassin, and archer. Warriors can develop branches of survivability, strength, and agility, as well as additional directions of evolution. Special classes include wizards, evolving archers, musketeers, and other variations. Combining classes can result in magical changes. Warrior plus priest evolves into holy warrior. If you choose the angel race, the character attacks, heals, and defends with high stamina and defense, etc. Nuggets is concerned that using a priest on a team could negatively impact the entire group. Qing Qiao explains that it is important to consider the real situation. With a certain item, the group is able to cope even with experienced players, performing miracles. Nuggets asks about the correct tactics, to which Qing Qiao replies, "Only a strategist can defeat an assassin." By strategy, we mean actual strategies, not game classes, which surprises Nuggets. Monitoring every movement, it locks onto targets and slowly approaches, delivering an instant fatal blow. Throughout history, many assassins have used this tactic: total determination, precision, and stealth. Nuggets notes that Lo failed to seize the initiative and did not get close enough to attack. Her own pride, incompatible with the assassin class, played a key role in her defeat. Luo Xiaoqi is aware of the enemy's hidden abilities and plans to take advantage of the moment after the skill's effect ends. She challenges the camera by looking at it, demonstrating her sensitivity to magical influence. Qing Qiao uses the 10% chance of a fear effect to break through Luo's mental defense and suppress her. The main reason for her failure was the revelation of her own strong side, which turned against her. Qing Qiao says that the next task will be easier and promises to return the level after completing it. Nuggets is willing to complete any task, showing complete trust in Qing Qiao's plan. A voice from the forest calls for players to take action and move forward, pointing towards a huge monster. Players spot a cute dog number 3 with a grab and an exclusive high-end skill, Beast Tamer. The dog's equipment and skills are account-specific, making him valuable to the team. Leontion's main goal is to defeat the boss and obtain all the skills, making the most of the account's advantages.